is a presentation of the iRacing eSports Network.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing. It's almost like Martin Kroenke wanted there to be a showdown at Circuit of the Americas. It's almost like Martin Kroenke wanted to give one more opportunity for Mitchell de Jong to try and fight, even though the gap is really, really wide. There are now only 2 drivers in contention for the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, and they each have the purple, the orange, and the white of COTA Sim Sports. Last time out, it literally came down to the final couple of corners at Spa-Francorchamps. I was quite literally about to crown Martin Kroenke the world champion, but then we had a bit of pandemonium. He went from first to third, and here we are. Welcome to Circuit of the Americas. Welcome to the heart of Texas, and welcome to the final round of the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, where qualifying is underway. Track temperature today is 23 degrees Celsius. We have got ourselves humidity of 54% right now. Clear skies, but it's windy. 20 kilometers an hour. It's Will Vincent with Jake Sperry and Jonathan Simone, and we want to give a quick shout out to Istvan Balau, TrackCams22.com, Andres Warner and One Design for overlay, Simon Grossman for development, and live timing and scoring will be available throughout the course of this event. As we mentioned, the times will be coming in before you know it. We've got a few already. Martin Kroenke, 1 minute 36.060. Gregor Hutu a full 7 tenths back, but it's Mac Backham who's the first driver to break into the 1 minute 35 range. Peter Berryman is currently in 3rd place, pushing down the driver of Gregor Hutu. Rogers up into 3rd place, but there's one driver that we really need to turn our attention to, and that is this man. That is the man of Mitchell de Jong. We're going to go on board of him now as he's doing the crawl, as we like to call it. It's the crawl there, Jake, that he does pretty much every single time he preps up for a lap. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Today, Well, it's got to work, and he's going to hope that everything goes wrong for Martin Kroenke.
It's win or bust for Mitchell de Jong today, Will, as if the Dallas Cowboys are America's team, this may be America's track. Mitchell de Jong needs a victory. Martin Kroenke needs to finish 22nd or higher today, with 27 vehicles looking to take to the starting grid after this qualifying session. Everything to win for, all to lose. De Jong got unlucky at Spa, and that's why the championship is as wide as it could be. It could have been a much easier challenge, but De Jong needs a bit of help. He needs an incident, but he needs a good qualifying first and foremost, because victory is the #1 operative.
Yeah, and Johnny, you and I probably agree. They might be called America's team, but they're not America's best team, the Dallas Cowboys. But Mitchell de Jong does, though, start his lap right now. He gets on the throttle and heads himself down in towards turn #1. Talk us through it.
Yeah, as a Philly Eagles fan, I'm definitely not supporting the Cowboys. Here he goes through turn 1. Oh, it's so difficult through this corner. You spot the apex. It's blind. Very easy to lose the car through this sequence of corners, and watch him through the S's here. Just phenomenal, spot on, good so far. 5th gear through this corner, through the left-hander. Now you want to use a bit of curb here on the right-hand side, which he does exactly that. There won't be any off-track as long as you don't run wide here. I think de Jong was pinpoint perfect there. Any wider, he may have had to abort the lap. And here he is through the hairpin here at turn 11, through the left-hander. Perfect again right now. Now full ERS usage right now in qualifying. There's the DRS zone. Switch that on manually with whatever button these drivers have allocated to the steering wheel. Spot the 100-meter board to the right-hand side. It's so difficult to see with all the crowd as well. That's what's so difficult with iRacing. Everything here is simulated. It's difficult to spot those brake markers. 3rd gear through this right-hander. On the throttle where you can. Some drivers like to short shift through here. De Jong carries out the throttle a little bit more. This exit here, it's so easy to run wide and get an off-track. So that's where you have to be really careful. And so easy to run wide through here. This is not a full throttle section of the racetrack, as others might think it is. I'd love for there to be a bollard here on the left-hand side, but there isn't. So you really have to guess the braking point. Remember, the camera angle we're watching from, these drivers are driving from a lot lower than this through the final corner. DRS open for the last few, run to the line. Only good enough for P3. That's not enough for the American.
It's not, and Mac Backham is back on track. Trying to play words there as he's now doing a run. So it's Backham from Kroenke, from de Jong, from Jensen, from Rogers. Uta all the way down in P number 11, by the way, in terms of Team Redline. So Redline almost just riding this one out for the sake of it, by the looks of it. But Jensen and Rogers, they could come into play here, Jake, in terms of what happens in this second run and what happens at the start of this race.
They do. They're very, very good when it comes to qualifying. Their race pace maybe is a little bit circumspect, I think is the right way to say it, but they have been known to do very well, as Peter Berryman is currently in 4th position as things stands. Rogers on a flying lap, the Australian in the 92. He makes his way through that left-hander, that very difficult slow double apex left, and now through the triple right-hander a la Turkey. Bit of a wiggle on the curb on the middle part of that section, so he's got to be a little bit careful. Bert's looking good though. They've got a new signing in Harrison Finch. They want to push him through the Pro Series, so Bert's are looking stronger and stronger. Here comes Rogers over the line, a 1:36.478. Better on time, not on position.
Yep, and that's what often happens at a longer track like this, circuit of the Americas. There is Martin Kroenke. He is warming up for a second run right now. As well, Kroenke, all he has to really do is finish inside the top 22 here today, Johnny. But there are 27 drivers here, so the thing is for Martin Kroenke, he does want to make sure that he gets through the first lap without difficulties, and we have seen literally everything go wrong at the start of COTA. I mean, what is it? Ollie Pakula being flipped upside down, some stalling at the start of races here.
And Hutu was involved in that, don't forget.
Yeah.
So this that was back in 2014, many years ago. But what you're seeing right now on screen is a very slow outlap. This is from Martin and Mitchell. Mitchell's a lot slower than this right now, and it obviously works at a circuit like this where you go through the S's. Every time you hear the tires screech, you're basically scrubbing off grip. But the problem is that the tires are cooling down right now, and I tried this as a driver, and And one aspect people forget is that, yeah, you might get away with cool tires and you might still be able to set a good lap, but throughout testing for a week, if you're practicing this kind of method and practicing qualifying laps, over an hour, you might actually get 11 or 12 less laps in than your teammate who's just blistering it quickly on the outlap. So you want to get more practice in and more reps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Hutu is up into 4th place, so he does respond on his second lap. We're on board with Jamie Fluke as he just heads himself through turn 1. He's loose twice there. He's going to have to have bought that lap. I mean, that was, well, Johnny, he's doing it for the sake of doing it, but those first 2 corners, he was loose through turn number 1, then again through 2.
Yeah, everyone's on high downforce here, but even in qualifying, no different. But again, that's a corner which I mentioned when we were on board with De Jong early on, that it's so easy to lose the rear end. Here is the driver on screen of Martin Kroenke. He's filing through the first sector, and Will, you want to avoid those massive sausage curves. And Kroenke, good lap so far. This is a lot more dialed in than De Jong's lap we watched earlier.
Yeah, as this final right-hander, it's a bit like the S's at Suzuka, it's a bit like Chapel Corner at Silverstone. Get it right, it gives you a good launch all the way down to turn number 11, which is what Kroenke is coming into right now. Marcus Jensen has responded. He's gone faster than Hutu once again as they work themselves down the back straight. It's worth noting, because this is a longer lap, the drivers actually are getting it a little bit closer in terms of getting to the time limit, as a little bit of a lockup from Martin Kroenke, not too much into 12, sweeping it to the right into turn number 13 right now, as he's now just got himself this tricky, difficult section once again. Takes more of an arcing line through here, gets the car straightened out. Now into that triple right-hander where Raikkonen had almost passed the season before he got himself a time end penalty. Now just 2 corners to go, 19 over the sausage curve into 20. Final corner, Martin Kroenke, will he improve? The answer to that question is, as he comes to our start-finish line, oh yes he will. It's a 135.868. He is to the top of the timing stands there, Jake.
He is, as De Jong rounds the final corner, needs to find a 10th and a half, if not 2 tenths, and doesn't find it, found only 4 thousandths. De Jong will start from 3rd, crucially behind Martin Kroenke, which is the thing, and this suddenly got difficult for Mitchell de Jong. Kroenke is in position number 1, but difficult position number 1. Keep an eye on Paul Ilbrink as well. He's got to start from dead last. He's got to fight for the top 20 against Michael Partington as well here, Will, and that's going to be crucial because Ilbrink needs 35 points on a certain Mr. Partington.
He does indeed, and this will be interesting to watch. Normally at the end of the season we have more battles than this in terms of the drivers who will remain in the World Championship season for next year. However, they did change the rules at the end of the 2017 season. That has impacted on the number of battles we have coming into the final race of the championship. And well, that's one of the things, we talked about this just before we came on air, Johnny, that quite often we do end up in a situation that a lot of drivers will come back just for the last 2 races in order to get themselves their qualification for next year. I remember Ben Cornette was always the driver that would do it back in the day, but because of the rule changes, because of the 75% rule, it does now mean that if you don't show up, you can't expect to come in a fast car at the end and just maintain your black stripe.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great rule change. It's a positive for the future. It's something we need to keep cracking down on. I don't think we've perfected it at the moment. Everyone's trying to work towards getting more fuller grids to these events, but nevertheless, I still think the racing, regardless of having a little less of a driver count this season, I still think the racing has been phenomenal. You know, I've enjoyed this season from race 1 to now at COTA with the final race, and it hasn't even started yet. So as long as we crack down on that and more for a positive future, we'll see what happens.
Well, let's start off by having a look then at your qualifying results here from Circuit of the Americas. Almost a 10th of a second separates Martin Kroenke to Mac Backham. But then it is a further 0.2 of a second back to Mitchell de Jong. It is the Koana Simsport 1, 2, 3. However, you've then got Marcus Jensen breaking up the party for Burst Esports in P number 4. Rounding out your top 5, that is Tommy Erskard also from the Commander Simsport stable, Gregor Hutu, P number 6 for Team Redline. The first of your Apex Racing UK cars, they are going to be starting in P number 7 with Josh Rogers in 8th place for Burst Esport, Martin Piatella 9th for Coanda, and then Kevin Ellis Jr. will round out your top 10 for the Apex Racing UK team. Then on to page 2, and Pash Gergis for Coanda Simsport, Jamie Fluke in 12th for Apex Racing UK, David Williams in 13th, and it's the two Orion race team drivers of Ilka Hapala and Yal Vaz, 14th and 15th. Race clutch there, one driver of Stephen Michaels in P number 16, Antoine Hegelin in 17th position, with then the driver of David Accor, Michael Partington and Ricardo Orozco rounding out your top 20. Remember what we said earlier about Michael Partington. All he needs to do today is score 35, well, less than 35 points less than the driver starting at the very rear of your field. That is Paul Ilbrink. We're coming on to this one now. Moritz Lohner, Team 33, he is in the 21st position. Then it's Radicals Online with Umishima, Dion Verges, Orion Race Team, Mogar Philo for Radicals Online, University of Isabella 1, Positive Sim Racing, Daniel Bieder in 25th, the second race clutch driver of Alice Remniak in 26th, and starting right at the back, 3 seconds off the pace almost, is Paul Ilbrink in the Radicals Online machine. I did also note there's a big drop-off once you got past about P number 12 here today. So that is the state of play as it stands here in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. We are 23 minutes away from kicking off the final round of the championship. But before we go any further, Jake, do you think it was partially staged by Kroenke last time out?
Well, I think Jonathan did a fantastic job with Jamie Fluke on the Simon Racing Report of dissecting that incident and exactly what happened. I think that he has a much better angle on it than I did. I think that in terms of where Mac Backham was and wanting 1, 2, 3 in the championship, maybe that's something that Martin Kroenke wanted to do. I think it's Coanda's responsibility to say if something like that happens, but they wanted to shout out about, how it was Martin Kroenke running out of fuel. By all means, if that's the way that they want to go, that's the way that it will stay.
Johnny, I didn't see him running out of fuel.
Yeah, I mean, I get along really well with all the Coanda guys, but I know they're I don't want to say they're lying, but they're trying to cover something else up. I definitely think Kroenke just tried to let Backham through, probably for some extra points, because he's only 20 behind Hutu, isn't he? We'll look at the championship standings later, but they need Backham to gain some more points. I think Kroenke just mucked it up a little bit and realized, Gregor's gone past, and this is a bit embarrassing, so we'll just say it's fuel or something. And I've done that before. I've made fake excuses. We're all racing car drivers in one way or the other, and you try to cover things up. So it doesn't really mean anything. Kroenke should probably end up winning the championship anyway.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Kroenke will most likely have this championship won by the first pit stop of the day. Sorry. Mitchell de Jong in second place. I mean, he's got to win, and he's got to hope that Martin has something horrible happen to him. We've seen it all happen before. We've seen hardware failures. You've seen everything. But to only need to make up 5 places in a race like this, where you're likely to see a start race into them, it is going to be one of those times where it's like a 0.1% on the ESPN tracker, but it can still happen. Gregor Hutu, Matt Backham, that's the interesting one. Because, Jay, it's not just about Coanda 1, 2, 3. It's about the prestige for them in this championship, but also there is a significant increase in terms of, what the team gets out of it in terms of prizes at the end of the season. And a lot of these teams pull those prizes together quite a bit more in terms of development as an overall organisation. So actually, that's not just a bit more money in Matt Backham's back pocket. That could be more money in Coanda's back pocket.
It is, and when you remember that Coanda's primary source of income as a team comes from championships like these here on iRacing, you look at it compared to Redline, who like to spread themselves out against all the other simulators in the world. I think they see Gregor Hutu as someone who isn't as much of a priority anymore when it comes to the top level of their sim racing program. And I think that it's shown how over the last half of the season, Hutu's had no friends to work with. It's been Gregor on his own in this championship, not interested in any other race. He wants to do this one and this one alone. And it's been seen over the last 3 or 4 rounds how his qualifying, he struggled for top 5 qualification runs. It's showing how Gregor is struggling on his own. He needs a team around him. He doesn't have it. Coanda have the strategy, the system, the whole, shall we say, structure around them that works, and I think that's why Mac Backham is going to steal 3rd place in the championship away from Gregor Hutu.
Yeah, and let's not put it any other way. Gregor Hutu, this is not just the now thing. And he's saying, "Oh, I'm not going to do things like F1 eSports or anything else out there." Oops. But Johnny, I mean, I think Jake makes a really good point there, because Hutu's never been a driver to compete in multiple sims. I remember, I think he dabbled a bit in R Factor, but his main source of, driving was Grand Prix Legends and then iRacing. And he's not done the 14,000 other esports championships that are flocking up at the moment.
Yeah, he's a perfectionist. I think that this is something people don't understand. A driver like Martin Kroenke, our own RaceSpot TV's Hugo Luis, these guys are perfectionists where they're not just going to go race 3,000 races a year and not care where they finish. They enjoy the testing and the racing and the preparation and all that kind of stuff. And even if they do find it boring, that's what they're used to. They're not going to come into a race and give a half-blown effort at it. Hutu is going to come into a race knowing this is the best he could have achieved, and that's it. And I think this is what people just don't understand, because they think, these guys are the best. They can go in any race and win, but it's just not enjoyable that way. And that's what I really enjoy out of these guys. I mean, I tried to be like that way too, but for me, it was being a perfectionist, but finishing P47 each race. So technically I was the same, but it was about 40 positions lower.
Yeah, and also at the same time, it is worth noting, Johnny, that the people who are taking part in all the other esports events, I'm not putting them down at all. It is worth noting, though, that they have very little time to practice, to test, to do all of these things, because they're traveling so much. I mean, first of all, I have no idea how they're able to cover all these flight costs and travel costs and rig costs, because it gets expensive. Yes, the money might be there, but flying to all these places does cost quite a bit of money. But secondly, it's time spent testing. We've always said that one thing that makes iRacing different from other products is that it started off as a training tool. It is a training tool. I don't know any driver in all of sim racing who has ever been able to just jump onto iRacing and immediately be world championship top 3.
Yeah, I remember Bono Haas came in, well-established driver, arguably. If you take Gregor Hutu out of the equation, Bono could have arguably already be considered one of the greatest sim racers of all time, and probably will go down when his career is said and done. And he came to iRacing and he never won a race last year, even though he performed really well, 3rd in the championship, had a lot of podiums, but it was so difficult to him to adapt to a different simulator in iRacing. But, going back to the perfectionist thing, again, like Hutu and Kroenke and these perfectionists here, or Hugo Luis, they don't enjoy that kind of stuff. And it's like the criticism you see with Lewis Hamilton in Formula One. Like, they always criticize why he's traveling so much and, he's going to get tired. But I think people need to understand that he enjoys that. And that to him is like rest. That's a mental rest. And for these guys who don't race as much, they don't need to be sim racing 24/7 to be good. They understand their talent. They just need to get the rest. They do the WCS race here today, IWC GPS, I should call it. And then they go home and grab a beer after the race and relax. The next day, get back to testing, hang out with their family, and just get on with more important things in life, because I think what people understand, and this is, people don't understand why a guy like Nico Rosberg retired, is that there's more to life than Formula One and more to life than racing sometimes.
Yeah, and actually I remember the day that Hugo Luis retired, to be honest. And I remember the exact moment when he retired. Sorry, 1 second. And in that moment, quite literally, he was like, you know what? I am a perfectionist and I can't be bothered to do it anymore, because he thought that he lost his edge. By the way, Dom Duhan just said, yeah, he's done GPL, NASCAR 2003, R Factor, FSR, iRacing. I know, but in terms of the very, very, very top level is what I mean. Jay, in terms of what's going to happen next season, I think it is going to get really interesting to see how these teams who are evolving into multiple esports programs manage to keep their programs operating at a high level throughout.
It's going to be interesting, Will. I don't know how it's going to pan out. We may see a team like G2, for example, decide to qualify both their drives and race like 3 races and take seats from other people. We may see something similar from Redline with the likes of Shotdorst or Pakala or whoever they want to put into a series. We may see drivers like Martin Piatella, who, let's not forget, is 22nd in the championship, qualifying himself inside the top 10, has a great shot of getting himself top 20 in the championship, but he hasn't made the 75% rule. As such, he will have to go through the Pro Series. You will see drivers like Piatella have to go through it again. There are drivers like Alex Simpson who may decide to go through it again, or Michael Dinkel. It could be a stacked Pro Series. It could be the changing of the guard wheel that we have been waiting for such a long time. New talents coming up, likes of Josh Thompson, Harrison Finch, so many more like an Eric Andre who could get themselves into this series. There is a lot that can happen over the winter, but this is probably going to be the most interesting winter I think iRacing has seen yet.
Yeah. Hi to Tyler Hudson, by the way. I was going to say thank you to you later on, but I'll do it later on anyway. As also, no, we're not saying that he is retiring also at the same time. So let's talk about this race very quickly, Johnny. Kroenke, I mean, he's just basically got to leave from the front here today just to keep safe. Do you do a different strategy if you're De Jong? Do you go all out to try and get the victory?
Problem is, the strategies are almost limited today. I mean, a one-stop, unless the weather is really cold come race time, it might be quicker on paper, but it's so difficult to manage. Once the tires reach a certain drop-off point, they almost turn into ice, but apparently some drivers feel like the lap times are still the same. I don't feel the same thing testing this car. I think the lap times drop off when it gets to that stage. So you're probably going to expect them to be on a 2-stop race. So look, we'll see how it goes. Nevertheless, this race, I just think try and pass him out on the racetrack and try and beat him that way. And maybe take him out at the same time and then win the race so that you can win the championship.
I think there would be a bit of a breakup of Coanda if that was to happen, Jake.
Yes.
Well, that's all we got time for our pre-race show, ladies and gentlemen. Race coverage is coming up next here live on the iRacing Esports Network. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the iRacing Esports Network now for the very best iRacing action from ourselves, LSR TV, Apex Racing TV, as well as the People I've Forgotten Global Sim Racing Channel and V8 Online. Our race coverage will start in just a couple of moments' time, and we will be right back. The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up.
4 more kilometers. A big
there we go! They touched!
This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride.
Cronky! Down to the inside of Hootie's off!
Passenger throws the block, and he will keep him behind him.
My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up, I'll never go back down. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Once more into the breach. One more time. The 26 drivers in this race to race in the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Welcome to Circuit of the Americas. Welcome to COTA. Welcome to Texas. And they always say the stars and stripes, they are burning bright deep in the heart of Texas. And for one driver, in about an hour, 40 minutes time, will be the 2018 World Champion of Grand Prix Racing here on the iRacing service. The drivers are currently practicing, warming up as we have a look at the track conditions here. And well, it's not that much of a change except the clouds have come in as it's 23 degrees with wind speeds of about 17 miles an hour right now. And for these drivers, that means, well, it's going to be a little bit more slick out there, but a little bit more grip throughout the course of this event. Will Vincent, along with Jake Sperry, Jonathan Simone, will join us in a few moments. Well, I say 26 drivers because no Gregor Hutu. Gregor Hutu will not be taking part in this race, Jake.
I'm surprised. I thought that his qualifying wasn't too bad for 6th position, but it seems that Gregor's either A, decided no. It won't be that Finland's decided no, like Finland decided to say no at Monza, but it seems that Gregor's decided no, I'm not racing this last race, and that's pretty much third in the championship to Mac Backham, done and dusted.
Yep, so it will be co-ender 1, 2, 3 in the championship. We just need to work out which way it will be 1, 2, 3 in the championship. Here are the standings heading in to this event. Martin Kroenke, 977 points. Mitchell de Jong, 922. Gregor Hutu, 850. Mac Backham with 800. MP4-30. However, it is worth us noting just very quickly how the points look for the series and how they will get points in this event. And you'll get 100 points for victory, 80 for second, 70 for third, and then it incrementally goes down. I'm not going to read off all 20 because I'll bore people to tears, and we'll be about lap number 40 by the time we actually get back into the race. So that's your bit of information there. There's a top 10 once more time on your screen. We've not got long now until the start of the event. 3 minutes, Jake. And, well, Mitchell Dion will be looking up at the skies thinking, is there anything I can do in terms of strategy?
Dive bomb into turn one. That's the greatest strategy I think he's going to have. He's got to surprise Martin Kroenke. Kroenke's got to go defensive. And what's good about Circuit of the Americas is it's got that massive opening of the channel, opening of an artery into turn number one, where you can go very comfortably in these Formula One cars, 5, 6 wide into turn number one. The only difficulty is you've got to slow it back down to about 3 wide at the apex and then 2 wide on the exit. So I think Mitchell has the ability to go down to the inside. We'll be worrying Martin Kroenke. I think after about 200 meters, though, Will, this race could be decided.
Yes, it could well be. We are hearing word that there is technical issues for Gregor Hutu. We're just having a look then at the fabled turn 12 corner, the second big overtaking opportunity on this track, as we are going to run you through then your starting grid for this, the final round of the 2018 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Coanda 1, 2, and 3. Mitchell de Jong wanted pole position, but was almost a quarter of a second back from teammate Martin Kroenke, whose second lap got him pole position, which for a while was being held by Mac Backham. Marcus Jensen will roll off on the outside of that second row for Burst eSport. And then we head on back. Tommy Erskard and P5. Peter Berriman in the 6th position. Joshua Rogers for Burst in 7th place. Marty Piatella for Koana Sim Sports in 8th place. Kevin Ellis Jr. in 9th place at Apex Racing UK. And Pash Gergis rounds out your top 10. Jamie Fluke will roll off at 11th for Apex Racing UK, followed by David Williams. Ilka Harpala, Yal Vaz, Orion Race Team, all row 7. Stephen Michaels for Race Clutch in P number 15. Antoine Heglin in P number 16. David Accor, Michael Partington, Ricardo Orozco, Moritz Lohner round out your top 20. Worth noting that the other big battle we got today is between Michael Partington rolling off in P number 18 and the driver in P number 26, Paul Ilbrink. We'll talk about that one during the race. Well, Johnny, we've got 30 seconds to go before the race starts. Well, the drivers head to the grid at the very least. Final thoughts before we go to the grid.
I just hope it's a great final race. I've loved the season. There's an interesting track. This is normally De Jong land in the past, but let's see if he gets knocked off the top step of the podium here today.
Well, yeah, and Jake, for you?
I think that this race will be decided at turn 1. If not, it may be decided a little bit later from that. I think that this is going to be a tough fight for both championship contenders. Don't count out a fight at the bottom of the tables, because if this becomes a race of attrition, Paul Ilbrink normally does very, very well.
Yeah, the drivers are now going to start heading themselves then to the starting grid for this, the final round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series for 2018. It has been a fascinating championship where we have seen pretty much everything happen. We've had thrills, we've had spills, we've had last lap lunges on at least 3 occasions this season. Let's not forget what happened at Phillip Island. Let's not forget what happened at Watkins Glen International to ensure Gregor Hutu could remain unbeaten then. Let's not forget what happened at Spa a couple of weeks ago, which meant that this championship came down to the final round. And let's not forget what happened a couple of years ago, not even into turn number 1, on the way to turn number 1. The drivers are now lined up on the starting grid. We are almost ready to go racing in Texas. So welcome to the iRacing eSports Network for the final time. We are underway here at Texas. It was a bit of a slow start by Martin Kroenke. This will allow Matt Backham to go down to the inside, as also Mitchell de Jong did try to have a look through turn number 1. They all spill through that first corner, but they all just about make it through. De Jong tried very hard to get alongside both Backham and Martin Kroenke. He had the better start, but braked earlier, realizing he couldn't put his championship to bed just yet. Here they come on the exit of the S's for the first time. Drivers all swarming through, and I can report that we've had no major incidents here, Johnny, at the start of this race.
Yeah, a bit of contact with Berryman before we saw it turn 1. Happler may have been turned around possibly, but I think they're all still out there running. So nobody out of the event so far, which is good to see. The drivers all starting to form up here towards the middle part of the lap, but look at your top 3 at the moment. De Jong had a good getaway. Erskard was blitzed by everybody else behind. Look who's ahead of Tommy Erskard. Marty Piatello, who started 8th. He's had a great start. He's up in the 6th.
Yeah, he's had a fantastic start, as we see a couple of drivers all spinning through turn number 12, but they are all still going on track here as we have a look, as they now will head themselves towards that very difficult right-hander. And anyone who watched the US Grand Prix last year, remember that this is when Kimi Räikkönen almost made one of the passes for an ages, only for the steward to say, you can't have it, as they'll come past the start-finish line to complete lap number 1 in a moment. It is Martin Kroenke who will lead from Matt Backham, from Mitchell de Jong, Marcus Jensen, Tommy Erskard, Peter Berryman, Josh Rogers, Piatella, Ellis Jr., Kevin Ellis, Pat Gerges, and then Jamie Fluke rounds out your top 10. Live timing and scoring is available right now, as we've got a driver on pit road. That is Peter Berryman. What else is going on?
I've just seen a big incident at turn 1 that involves Jamie Fluke and an Orion car, I do believe, and that Orion car, Will, was Yao Vaz looking down to the inside at 1. Very inviting. There was an Apex car down his inside as well of Yao Vaz. That was Antoine Higeland. Higeland really didn't give much room to go for Yao Vaz, and as such, Jamie Fluke, an innocent bystander. There was also incidents on the opening lap between David Williams and other vehicles, as well as Balazs Remnick getting a turn. And I will correct you, Will, Max Verstappen, you mean?
Yeah, you know what I mean. I was going to say, we do have 2 drivers on pit road already. They were David Williams and Peter Berryman. Berryman looks as though he is done for the race. However, David Williams has come back on track. We did see from our overhead cameras, Johnny, that Peter Berryman was doing the whole tilt the wheel to the left and to the right, see how much damage it is. It looks like it's steering damage. That will mean it is going to be terminal for the driver of Peter Berryman.
Yeah, there's no way, you know, that's suspension damage, steering arms damage as well. You can't fix that in time, so it doesn't matter how long you pit for. He's out of the event. Unfortunately, Peter Berryman, he's had a blistering season. I really wanted him to win a race before the end of 2018, so he'll be definitely earlier preparations than anybody else for 2019. But regardless of that, he's just a disappointing way to end what I have to say is a successful season for the young man.
Yes, it has been successful overall. I do want to have a look very quickly at the first eSports drivers, having a look at Marcus Jensen right now, and having a look at the gap between himself. And we have got a couple of issues with our on graphics timing, which we are going to fix here any second now. So we'll just keep on talking in the meanwhile as we just do something over the back end. But the thing is, that is worth noting, Jake, that the field has spread out pretty quickly here. It's not massive, but Martin Kroenke in particular has pulled away really quickly.
That's what he's needed to do, Will. He's needed to build that gap and do very, very quickly, or get very, very quickly away from de Jong and Backham and make sure he's got no worries at all in this race. Very different, shall we say, to the middle of the pack and the Williams eSports driver of Moritz Lohner in the 20. I find it very unsettling seeing a Williams livery on a McLaren MP4-30, but that's by the by. He's trying to battle Stephen Michaels for race clutch. Very aggressive on the brakes, locking it up slightly as well as Lohner. Heading into the braking zone, the German against the American, and Michaels on home turf wants a good result for that race clutch and that road to 2020. He's in 12th. Orozco, who's 18th in the championship at the moment, he's in front in 11th and having a storming start, +8.
Yeah, having a look now at the Radicals online, and this is the battle to remain in the championship. We're on board with Paul Ilbrink right now between himself and Michael Partington is a teammate himself, Kazuki Umeshima. One would wonder whether Umeshima is just going to allow Ilbrink to go past and the two to battle it out. But the issue is, even if Ilbrink does get past, it doesn't mean that he's going to be into the championship. He will still have a lot of work to do. As we have had now David Williams back on pit road, so it looks like he is out of the event, and Peter Berriman is down. The gap between Martin Kroenke and Mac Backham is 1.7 seconds, but more importantly here, Johnny, the gap between Mitchell de Jong and Mac Backham, that's stretched up now to 1.2, so de Jong has lost DRS.
Yeah, that's critical right now. De Jong is in huge trouble. He needs to reel back in Mac Backham. This is where you'll be using all the ERS power you have just to get back in the DRS range. But one thing he has to be careful of de Jong as well is if he's underfueled the car, he won't be doing much DRS saving as well, where you have the DRS flap open for 20 laps longer than you really should be, and you end up saving a leader or two. So de Jong needs to make sure that he's got enough fuel in that car, which I'm pretty sure he might do. Otherwise, we'll see more Coanda antics with not having fuel to win the race.
Yeah, having a look at Moritz Lohner on board of him right now in the number 20 car. Stephen Michaels has had a good start to this event. He is up 4 places in the race clutch car as Team 33 versus Race Clutch. And, well, this is one thing I do like, Johnny, the fact that we have still got teams like Race Clutch, teams like Team 33, teams like Burst Esports, who are challenging the powerhouses of the likes of Redline, of the likes of Coanda. You could almost add the likes of Apex, Orion, and even Radicals Online to that mix. It is good to still see other teams competing at this level in the top 15.
Which I've loved this year. You know, Burst Esports taken a great step up. Apex Racing UK's had a successful year. It's been great to see, and I'm pretty sure we'll see even more drivers to add to those teams and new teams next year. Imagine if we had a G2 out here still racing. We would have had them up there and even more Redline drivers. So everybody thinking it's just been a Coanda dominance. Hasn't been the case. You know, I think with some more series changes next year to just improve the series a little bit better, which we keep doing year after year, I'm pretty sure we'll see drivers start to turn up a little bit more.
Yep, so having a look right now, this is P8 and 9 on track. Pas Gergis in the number 41 Coanda Sim Sports and Kevin Ellis Jr. in the number 98 Apex Racing UK machine. I put it up because the gap is currently 4 tenths between the two of them, as the gap will come down because the DRS flap is going to be wide open for Ellis Jr. in towards turn number 12, but not close enough to make a pass yet, Jake. But noteworthy that Kevin Ellis Jr. is hounding Pas Gergis, who is now out of DRS range and Tommy Erskine in front.
Yes, that's going to be crucial as well, because it means that there is going to be not as much of a defensive punch from Paschalis Jurgis comparatively to Kevin Ellis Jr., who can go full bore on the ERS, full bore on the DRS, and gain 2, 3, 4, half a second down that big, long 1 kilometer back stretch. It's going to be a huge overtaking moment for Ellis Jr., who wants to get up. Is currently the leading Apex car, which shows you just how good of a day they've had. If Ellis Jr., who's gone nowhere, is their best driver at the moment in 9th. There's work to do. He can make that move, but he's got to be patient about how he decides to make that move, Will. There's no point throwing away the race early. This is lap 6 of 56. He's got himself 51 laps of work still yet to do.
Yeah, and of course, one thing, Jake, that we can always talk about, especially at a longer track like this, is fuel saving and also a little bit of tyre saving potentially as well. So you do get that one big flying lap later on in the event when you do go onto fresh tyres, and it can work in swings and roundabouts as they head themselves down towards turn 11 again.
Yeah, it's a very heavy tyre degradation circuit, Will, because you've got that very Silverstone-esque first sector. You've got that slow to quick sector in the end of the lap as well, which is always going to be killing the tyres. There's not really much of a break apart from this straight that they're on now, and they need to understand that, okay, with Kevin Ellis Jr. behind, diving down to the inside, but not quite close enough, they need to be very cautious about their tyre strategy. It is a 1 versus 2 stop race, as it always is, Will, but with cooler conditions today, and of course the ability just to sit back and wait when you're sometimes in the draft, those tyres need to be managed, and need to be managed very carefully here today. And of course Kevin Ellis Jr. does love a 1 stop.
He does. Having a look down, Paul Ilbrink is still behind. In fact, he's dropped out of DRS range behind Umashima and Partington, so he is not in play right now. One battle we have got going on, it's the freeway battle. It's the two Burst eSports drivers being hunted down by the driver of Marty Piatella as they work through turn number 1. Koana Sim Sports versus Burst eSports pretty much takes up the entirety of your top 7-8 drivers right now. But Piatella, this is one of the issues here, Johnny. You really struggle with being able to stay behind a car through sector 1, and that means that unless you completely nail it as Piatella goes wide, you're going to then not be able to make full use of DRS when you come into 12.
Exactly, that's just the nature of that first sector, which is, you know, a lot of people criticize the design. It is fun to drive around, but you just have to manage that. That's a skill as a driver. Don't over push the tires. If you're understeering and you hear the tires squeal and screech, then maybe just back off the pace a little bit. You know, make Rogers make the move on his teammate like we could potentially see, although it doesn't happen by the end of this straight. And then just save the rubber for a move later on in the stint. You don't have to potentially get the move done this early on. So Piatella's a smart driver. By the way, good to see him back out here racing. He was present in Indianapolis for round 10, but in the second half of the season, he's only raced 2 of these 7 races now.
Yeah, and as always, it can be for a number of reasons, but because of that, it will mean that Martin Piatella is likely going to have to run in the 2018 Pro Series of Road Racing. Josh Rogers seems to be putting pressure right now on Marcus Jensen more than anything else, but does end up getting stuck behind him through the apex of turn number 20, and this will mean the gap will be 3 tenths of a second as they head past the start-finish line. Don't forget, you can still check out RaceSport TV live timing and scoring. Just visit racesport.tv/timing for that one. As Rogers, let's actually ride on board of him. This should show you what I mean. This is 2 teammates. Their setups are going to be largely identical, but Rogers, you know, he can stay behind for the first bit, but the second bit, this is where it really kills the tires, Johnny.
Yeah, and look, Rogers is one of those drivers that uses curbs so much more aggressively. You can see right now on the limit there. I don't think you'll receive an off track for that, so it's all legal. Stewards won't be on their ears on the radio telling him anything else, but Rogers right now is pushing to the limit. He's already much quicker than Marcus Jensen, so he has to get a move done here. DRS is a good overtaking tool, but ERS even more important. So he'll be flicking that manually on the steering wheel. Hold the button. Jensen on the defensive on his teammate. This is so difficult to overtake, and look at the advantage Piatella has. Great driving from the Finn, but he can't make his way past the Australian. Brilliant stuff from Rogers too. I like that. Defends the inside, Will. You have to do that. I've been overtaken on a switchback there, and it's never a pleasant feeling.
Wheel-to-wheel racing through turn 12. Then that little S sequence, Jake. I mean, that's a mark of a good driver that can go wheel-to-wheel through there and understand entirely where that other driver is, because you cannot see him at that point in track.
No, you can't, and I think that Josh Rogers maybe made a little bit of a faux pas. He had been saving his ERS for a couple of laps. The moment he backed out of it and decided not to go too wide, he opened the door for Marty Piatella, but he was wise to the move coming out of turn 12, so very good driving there from Rogers to keep himself in that battle. He will now be alert to Marty Piatella, not only Piatella, but now Tommy Erskard as well on the back of this 4-car train, which seemingly looks to go forward as I just get an eye at a certain Moritz Lohner trying to make a move. They both make their way, Lohner and Michaels, past Ricardo Orozco's, now starting to fall backwards. Next up is another driver who will have to go through the road to pro, and that is Davide Corps.
Yeah, we've been having a look at a couple of replays of Ricardo Orozco. As you can see, he ends up being on the inside into that triple right-hander, and because of that, he doesn't have a line, and the Williams eSports car on Moritz Lohner will say thank you very much. And Lohner up into 12th place, Stephen Michaels up into 11th. That's probably one of the best showings, I think, in the World Championship I've seen for a while. Stephen Michaels running 11th place, but he's also, Jake, one of these drivers, one of these teams where they can be good at the start of the event, but their tyres can't always make them always work. Clean air will really help Michaels.
It will help Michaels, but look at Josh Rogers. He just made a mistake coming out of 11. That gave the opportunity to Piatella, but look how wide Josh Rogers went through 12. He track extended to his heart's content to hold the position. He was much later on the brakes, and that was a little bit naughty, I felt there. from Josh Rogers, but he holds the position for the moment. Piatella couldn't capitalize on that. So another opportunity to go then for Piatella, but all of a sudden it means Marcus Jensen pretty much outside of the 1 second bracket.
It is 1.2 seconds they come past the start-finish line. That is what 1.2 seconds looks like at Circuit of the Americas. It closes up dramatically in toward turn 1 and actually going wide again. That is going to be Josh Rogers. Is this the start of some of the tyre issues that Burst eSports have been plagued with all season long? Through the S they come again. We're back on board with the driver of Marty Piatella, and with no DRS to help him. Get this, he's already lost half a second to Marcus Jensen in this lap alone, in this sector alone. So Marty Piatella now wants to get a move on because he does not want to be held up any further by Josh Rogers in towards 11. This is all about getting the run for Marty Piatella, waiting until he can put that DRS on and that ERS. Let's have a look. Can he close up? 4 tenths of a second, a lot of work to do, but he does get closer and closer and closer and moves down to the inside in towards 12. Textbook passing. He might bring a Koana teammate along with him, or Tommy Erskard. No, he won't, but that was a good move there, Johnny.
Yeah, great move. This is going to get awfully close, though, between Rogers and the driver behind here of Tommy Erskard. Erskard is having a great race. Rogers starting to drift on the exit there at turn 16. You know, Rogers is the quickest of this bunch. He's just the least consistent right now. And he's a driver who struggled with tyre wear, like you said, Will. That's a good point. And he's not helping out with his case here today. And there is Piatella running extremely wide. I think he'll get away with that, of course, without a slowdown. But Rogers right now needs to get his grip together, because that first stop, the two stoppers will come in as early as lap 18, but I'm pretty sure the two stoppers want to be stretching this stint out to at least lap 20, 21. So for Rogers right now, we could expect for him to be coming in as early as lap 17 even. Yeah,
I think he's falling off the cliff already, and that's partially because of the fact, Jake, he's been stuck behind his teammates so long. We talk about the dirty air on the high dead track that is Circuit of the Americas. Now Rogers is seeming to have a bit of a better lap, but he's already lost 6 tenths of a second to Marty Piatella, and we'll actually have a look from the rear right now of Josh Rogers to Tommy Erskard, and actually Erskard made a bit of a mistake there through sector 1.
He did, and that's not going to be helping him in terms of his course, because he's got a certain Pash Jurgis and Kevin Ellis Jr. behind who want to make moves, as well as Antoine Higeland trying to stay on the train as well. So DRS and ERS for practically everybody then on this train as they all make their way down into turn number 12. So no real chances then for a move as of yet, but Rogers has to be careful. Yes, the tyres have been going off more and more. That will put him more towards a two-stop strategy here today, as I take a look at Michael Partington trying to make a move on Babby de Corps. Doesn't need to make this move. He's practically safe now thanks to David Williams being out of this event, which means now Paul Ilbrink needs 40 points on a certain David Williams to make his way up into 20th. But on 25th position, Paul Ilbrink's going to probably be needing a top 10, maybe even a top 5, and that's not happening even if you're Paul Ilbrink.
Yeah, indeed. So, I mean, the Radicals guys have had some fantastic races over the years. I remember one with Mogar Fila, I believe it was, at Spa about 4 years ago now, which was incredible. One thing I have started to notice, however, Johnny, is the fact that this battle with now Erskard, Gergis, etc., it's just bringing everyone closer together behind. So all of a sudden, what was Josh Rogers versus Tommy Erskard is now Josh Rogers versus Tommy Erskard versus Pash Gergis, Kevin Ellis Jr. and Antoine Higeland starting to sniff at the heels as well. And Apex are going to like this because they had a kind of quiet start to this event.
Yeah, look, it's always more exciting when you're at the back of a train. When you're at the front and you get updates and you look at your relative times on your dashboard and it's like, oh, there's 7 drivers behind me and they're separated by 3 seconds. That's not a pleasant feeling. So when you're at the back, this is a great opportunity to gain about 6-7 spots for a driver like Antoine Higeland. Look at his teammate ahead. That's the driver of Kevin Ellis Jr. finally trying to make a move here on Pascalis Georgis in one of his first races for Koanda Simsport. He made that move mid-season. Ellis Jr. no way past.
Oh,
the grid
wait.
driver.
Partington has made a big mistake, actually. Sorry to interrupt, Johnny, but this is only because he's one of these drivers potentially having to race next year. And Partington's the first driver to crack. Talk us through the replays. He goes down to the inside of Happala and he just overshoots into 12.
Yeah, well, that's the quack. Do we have duck sounds? Do you have any of those in the soundboard? So, well, we know one person actually is able to do that. I'm not going to mention them. But you come into turn 12 right now. Partington, he's probably just missed his brake marker, hasn't he? And this is something you need to do as a driver. DRS open, ERS to the max. You're basically revving at the top of the high downforce setup here. So you need to adjust your braking point as well. And that's something that Partington didn't do.
Yeah, and this is when you always come to the situation of race your own race, because Partington was ahead enough of Paul Albring. He is still ahead of Paul Albring, but the last thing he wants to do is crash and potentially give an opportunity to Albring later on. But yeah, we are aware at the moment that Partington is kind of safe in terms of championship. Of course, we have to wait until after the race and just take everything else into account with the official race results. In terms of the Rogers situation, Piatella is actually being closed up again all of a sudden. Rogers has kind of got it together. I say that as he pushes a little bit wide at turn 12, Jake, but that's not an issue. He has almost pulled out of DRS range compared to Tommy Erskard, though.
And that's just the pace that Piatella's been managing to set, and I think Josh Rogers has been equal to it. Erskard hasn't, and actually it's reeling them back in to Marcus Jensen in front. Look at the last lap time that Piatella did. He did a 1:39.516. Compare that to Marcus Jensen, he did a 1:40 point flat. That's a full half a second as Piatella runs wide coming out of the penultimate corner, which is not going to help his off-track incident points. But this is what the gap is doing. It's being brought down slowly but surely, and on that lap, there's a difference. Again, another 0.2 of a second there or thereabouts, getting locked off of Marcus Jensen. Jensen's being caught here. Rogers is happy to stay on the wings, but Marty Piatella is proving he's not the best qualifier in the world, but my goodness, is he one of the best racers.
Right, we talk about that with the likes of Ollie Packler as well, John. I mean, in the last 2 seasons, his qualifying was miserable, but like Marty Piatella, Ollie Packler could always find a way into the top 5. I mean, Piatella's had a good couple of podiums in the World Championship Grand Prix Series, and he is a racer. We talk about the fact that people say, oh, there's no real racing in the World Championship Series. Well, you know what? There is, and Piatella is one of the best pure racers in this series.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. There's plenty of racing and racers out there in this series, so I don't know where that flack's coming from, but Piatella, it's so remarkable to see him back out there on the grid. You know, we missed him, the veteran. He's trying to reel in Marcus Jensen in front, which we don't want to forget. The Coanda drivers are running away with this race. It's a sad fact for the rest of this bunch. But like I said, Josh Rogers is, in my opinion, he's the quickest of these guys right now in the battle for 4th. He just can't piece together a good string of life. There's a spinner in the background I see there. Who was that? Is that
Josh Rogers? Yes, it's Rogers. And actually, I think there's a secondary incident as a consequence of that. Let's get the replay up and let's see what happened. We're on board with Josh Rogers in the Burst Esports car, and this is what we've been talking about, the consistency, a curve, and he actually makes contact with one of the Coanda drivers, 2 Coanda drivers, I think, as well. It's all come unglued for the moment then for Josh Rogers and Burst Esports because of one slippery curb, and I said those tyres were going to pieces. Let's have ourselves another look. He just loses the back end and just clobbers one Coanda Sim Sports driver, and well, that is Tommy Erskard out of the event as well. Wow, Jake, I mean, this is what we mean. Consistency is key in this series.
It is, and he just tried to get aggressive. He got too cute. The vehicle snapped. He tried to save it. It came back. Nowhere to go for Tommy Erskard, who did the right thing, saw the vehicle snapping one way, went to the inside, and all of a sudden, Rogers snaps back. He got nowhere to go, and bang, Tommy Erskard gets a bit of bad luck. Same happened at Suzuka, really, for him as well, and practically, that's going to hurt. Good news for Rogers is this is right around the 2-stop window, so he can come in and come back out again. Same with Tommy Erskard. Both of them actually came out pretty much almost together. Erskard has now jumped a certain Josh Rogers in the pit stop cycle as well. Not the end of the world, Will, but still enough that's going to cost them probably about 5 positions come the end of this race.
Well, I'd say potentially a little bit more than that. It was a long stop for Josh Rogers as well, 10.4 seconds on the gun for him. And when you have a moment like that, who knows how these two cars are going to drive after that one. David Akor, Ilkka Haapala are just in a little bit of a scrap. They've got Michael Partington again behind, and you've also got a very racy Jamie Fluke as they now head themselves towards the Triple Apex. And we haven't really talked about Fluke much in this event, but Partington, of course, we have. We do believe he's safe, but just no more dive bombs down the inside of Orion Race Team cars, and I'm sure he'll be fine. Jamie Fluke, however, in the Apex Racing UK machine, as he exits turn number 20. The only issue right now is Kazuki Umeshima is on towards pit road for what I believe is a scheduled pit stop. Is that of a DRS train, the driver at the back loses out the most, Johnny.
Yeah, that's true. I think this is an early stop for Umeshima. You know, as I said, lap 17 for the 2 stoppers at the earliest, and that's pushing it. But we know Umeshima at Spa didn't qualify well and ended up leading a lap or 2 in the race as well, so he was certainly up there. So who knows if he's got a trick up his sleeve right now. For Jamie Fluke, I know he's been incredibly busy with a lot of personal commitments, hasn't been able to test as much either, so that's why you're probably finding him so far down the order. And don't forget, he was involved in some early race incidents.
Yeah, Daniel Bieder for Positive Sim Racing out and away as well, 4.1 second pit stop. So there are some people, I think, just trying to get out of traffic by going early, as Marty Piatella moves himself up into 4th place, overtaking Marcus Jensen. Another textbook move there by the Finn. Replay up for you, and this is Marty Piatella doing it again on the outside into turn number 12. This was able to give him the cutback into 13, and that was another textbook move there by the Finn, Jake.
I thought Jensen was a little bit flustered on the apex of turn number 12. I think he saw Marty Piatella on the outside, who definitely had more superior traction. It was like, oh, you're still there, are you? Oh, well, the position's yours. I can't fight back at you at this corner. And as such, Marty Piatella now has the position and has a pretty hefty gap of it, because I think Marcus Jensen has just dived down onto pit road, and that's very telling there. Maybe not happy with the tyres. Kevin Ellis Jr. follows as well, going on to a 2-stop strategy. Roscoe in, Harpler in, De Corps in. Yep,
so we've got 4 drivers on pit road all at the same time. They're all going to come out in the next couple of seconds. 4.3 second pit stop then for the second burst eSports driver of Marcus Jensen. As behind, you've also got yourselves, as we say, drivers coming out of pit road. Ricardo Orozco is out and away. David Akor is out and away. 4-second pit stop for him as he circulates back out on to track. As Ilkka Haapala will come out as well. A longer stop, actually, 9.2 seconds for the driver of Ilkka Haapala. So something, probably a front wing change there, Johnny, for Haapala, as he actually gets a bit of oversteer through turn 1.
Yeah, he was involved in some first lap incidents, so he's probably carried that damage all the way through to lap 17. The important thing is Piatella made that move on Jensen, and Jensen now should have the undercut on him. Fresher rubber should be worth at least about 2 seconds here. Looking at the lap times Jensen was running, he was about in the 1:40 range. He should most certainly be in the 1:38 range with that pit stop. So Piatella has to pit this lap to cover him. We know his teammates up ahead in the top 3 are all probably going to pit at the exact same lap. You know, they're like the San Antonio Spurs of this series. They're all a great team. And Piatella, rightly so, comes into the pits.
Yep, so Marty Piatella on pit road so far. We talked about the San Antonio Spurs. We talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Let's give a shout out to Washington State finally getting college game day after 15 years as well, with the biggest college game day crowd ever. Yeah. Piatella on pit road, Antoine Heglin on pit road as well. So it is going to be 4.2 seconds on the gun then for Marty Piatella. He's going to respond immediately. Antoine Heglin, he is out and away in 4.1 seconds. Where is Marcus Jensen? The answer is he is alongside but no behind Marty Piatella, and Piatella, if he can make it through turn number 3, is going to have that position secure, Jake.
That is fantastic pit stop strategy from Coanda. They are some of the best when it comes to covering off moves like that. And, well, Marcus Jensen had to come down in. Piatella covering, and we talked about the 2-second undercut. Well, it meant absolutely nothing because Piatella stays ahead of a certain missed Marcus Jensen. Not only that, but we'll have fresher tyres for the entirety of this next stint, which will mean Jensen will fall further and further away.
Yes, indeed. So let's have a look, though. Back to the front of your field. We've kind of ignored him, but he's on towards pit road. It's a driver of Martin Kroenke at the conclusion of lap number 18 as he comes down at the slow pit road speed here of just 60-something kilometers an hour, 64 kilometers an hour, as he will come into his pit stall right at the end of pit road. Brings it in nice and slowly, and Matt Backham's on pit road, Mitchell de Jong's on pit road, Pash Gergis on pit road, all aboard the Coanda pit stop train. Pit party as they come on out, and it will be Martin Kroenke the first to emerge. 4.1 second pit stop by him as he's back out onto track. And, well, we had a little bit of traffic going on there, Johnny, but they're all back out. Backham in second place as well. Pash Gergis, he's going to actually have a bit more of a difficult battle because I believe he was going to be close with someone, and actually he's not. So I take that back.
No, he's not, but I guessed that they were all going to pit at the same time, and they did. I'm really happy with that. And the likely thing now is Stephen Michaels could potentially lead Race Clutch's first ever lap in their team history in this World Championship, but I think Kroenke's going to spoil that party here. There we're right on board with Stephen Michaels. And there's Kroenke. Oh, pounding him now. It's very close between the two, isn't it, here on the exit? But Kroenke will make his way past. So while this happens now, this will be a pass for the lead. Obviously, very easy for Martin. I like the way this race is shaping up for Coanda. A potential 1, 2, 3, 4 finish. If we clutch at straws, even a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think Jensen will spoil that, though. I don't think we've ever seen a 1, 2, 3, 4 finish. We've had a few 1, 2, 3s for Coanda where they've clean swept the podium, but never a 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, you're right. And I remember the first time we had a 1, 2, 3 in team history. It was actually Team Redline. They did get the beneficiary of the first to do the 1, 2, 3s. Stephen Michaels doesn't lead a lap necessarily here in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, but he does lead a segment of a lap. So there's the first part of an accomplishment for Race Clutch as they'll come through turn number 20, and it's actually the highest that team has ever run in a World Championship event. Yes, of course, it's because of the fact there are 1-stoppers compared to some 2-stoppers, but you know what, it's always nice to talk about these teams and these situations anyway, as we have got on someone on towards pit road. Nope, I'll take that one back. But looking, what?
I was just looking at Stephen Michaels, Will, and he's fighting Matt Backham through turn 1 and has held the position.
Wow. And, well, he's perfectly entitled to. That's the thing, because he is racing for position. Now, I always say in a situation like this, it's always easier to just allow the driver to go past because you'll get their toe down the long straightaways. He'll give you a bit of help, but Stephen Michaels is still keeping Matt Backham behind. And I'll tell you one thing, that this lap alone, I think they've lost themselves about, a second and a half almost there. So Stephen Michaels, Matt Backham, they're going to race it down the back straightaway. But all of a sudden here, Johnny, Stephen Michaels is getting, I was going to say their sponsors a lot of notice, but, oh yeah, we're one of their sponsors.
Oh, here we are. There we are. Race spot on the screen. So, good. I mean, you can't let that frustrate you if you're Matt Backham. I know a lot of mentally weak drivers will be waving their hands up at home in their cockpit, expecting people to actually see them and do ridiculous stuff like that. But this is eventually a good move here by Mac. But here we are through the first sector on the replay. And, yeah, you just have to form up, take opposite lines. We'll go back further here to the final corner. So you'll see him, Michaels, just stick to the outside line and just maintain this position. The problem is, Will, is Michaels may have potentially been using too much ERS manually. And you want to get to a point in a battle in this car. As you see there, it's so close between the two. Then Michaels just sticks it around the outside with good traction. You want to go into a battle with like 90% of ERS battery left. And if Michaels came into this battle with like 20% left by the straight, he's just going to be a sitting duck compared to Backham, who's got a fat fuel or fat load of battery left in that energy recovery system.
Right, there are some drivers who have not yet pitted. They include the following. This way, Martin Piatella and Jamie Fluke have been battling side by side almost in towards turn number 1. But drivers who have not pitted, Stephen Michaels for Race Clutch, Vaz for the Orion Race Team, Dion Verges has not pitted as of yet. Mogarfilo hasn't pitted also. So 4 drivers looking to try and do the one-stop strategy here today. And, well, why not? It's the end of the championship season. You know what your objectives are. It's always nice to try and do something different. As side by side, this is Marcus Jensen and Jamie Fluke, and it is going to be Jensen moving up into P7. Fluke is going to actually try and come back at him, though. This is a fantastic run as they work towards turn number 12, and Fluke is going to try and go down to the outside. Can he make it work in the Apex Racing UK machine? He's not close enough to be able to do the cut back into 13, but wow, Piatella, Jensen and Fluke are putting on a great show here, Jake.
And all this will mean is that Jensen is getting a little bit held up, and that's going to allow Jurgis the chance now to try and slowly claw that gap down. He was 2.4 seconds away at the end of the last lap, and I don't think that's too bad at all for Pas Jurgis. I still think he's on for a top 5 finish if he can have a good run, because I'm not sure Marcus Jensen has the overall pace here in this event. Did a 39.2 the last time by. It was a 39 flat from Jurgis, who pitted later than his 2 rivals in front. 39.6 that time there from a certain Mr. Jensen, and that's another 0.2 of a second locked off by Pas Jurgis, a 10.5 that time. So Jurgis is just chipping away like a marble, a guy working on marble.
Yes. Do they still do that by hand? I hope they don't. I hope that we can get machines to do it by now. Jamie Fluke versus Pas Jurgis, that gap is 1.2. And the lap gaps, as we go through them, you can see 1.4 seconds, 2.4 seconds. Of course, part of that was with the last lap with Fluke and Jensen battling so hard. So Jurgis coming back into the picture. As it stands right now, Backham has got past Michaels. We showed him that earlier. We're going to see De Jong now getting past Michaels, and that's going to be an easy pass in towards turn number 12. He says it's going to be an easy pass. It is thankfully an easy pass there for Mitchell De Jong. We haven't talked about Mitchell De Jong today. And, well, Johnny, I remember the 1999 Japanese Grand Prix, because it was a chance potentially for Eddie Irvine to win Ferrari's World Championship at that point for 20 years. And he completely underperformed in that last race. In fact, the last few rounds of the championship, ever since Michael Schumacher got back in the Nürburgring race beforehand, Young completely underwhelmed me today. Completely underwhelmed me.
Yeah, I mean, look, if only he could battle for the title today, he still didn't perform up to his standards. But then again, surely he's come into this round with a little, I don't want to say demotivation, because we'll get in trouble. I hate that word, but I just feel like if he knew he had a more realistic shot at the title, he would have put in a bit more effort, because right now there's no point trying to win this race if you know that it's almost impossible. The fact that he was DDoS last round is just absolutely disgraceful. Whoever did that it's just ugly part of sim racing and esports. And I hope it never happens again, because he's one of the nicest guys out there in sim racing. It's like the last guy you'd expect to DDoS. It's like trying to throw a knife into a fluffy teddy bear at home. Like, why would you do that?
Well, that's a part, of course, of esports racing, as De Jong actually does go wide, very wide in turn number 11, as they'll head themselves down towards 12 again. This is your top 8, as Stephen Michaels, by the way, Yao Vaz, they still haven't come on towards pit road, so treat this with a bit of caution. It is Martin Kroenke leading by 3.4 seconds now over Mac Backham. Mitchell De Jong in 3rd place. Stephen Michaels in 4th. Yao Vaz in 5th. Then Marty Piatella, Marcus Jensen and Pas Jurgis. They're going to have a fantastic battle in the second half of this motor race. I have just seen Josh Rogers involved in a battle with Dion Verges. We're going to get a replay of that one up for you right about now. Let's see what happened. I don't know if it was just close side-by-side racing. Take that back. I believe it was Tommy Erskard who got ahead. So let's just try and change. There we are. Tommy Erskard was able to get ahead of Josh Rogers down the long run towards turn number 12. And then I believe something else might have happened. Yeah, Dion Verges got past a second time there by Josh Rogers, and now Kazuki Yoshima has gone past Dion Verges as well. So the one-stop strategy is really not working for some drivers here today. But as I said, Jake, you've got to try it out at some point.
You do, and you have to remember as well that the halfway stage of this event comes at lap 28, so they're only 5 laps away from half distance, so they will be pitting in the next 2 or 3 laps. So you're seeing probably the worst that they'll be driving in this event, and they'll start falling backwards later and later on. So not really too much to be worrying about. I have noted, though, that Ricardo Orozco has been on pit road for well over a lap. It's a shame to see him involved in an incident. He was 18th in the championship. He will definitely be safe thanks to David Williams. So Orozco out, but still with a license.
Yeah, so let's just have a look at Rogers and Erskine, actually, as we're on board with Josh Rogers in the Burst Esports number 92 car. Of course, he lost position to Tommy Erskine, but he can try and get it back. One thing, of course, it is worth noting is he is driving a wounded car right now, Johnny, so in towards 12. I mean, even though he had DRS, you can see that Burst Esports car is hurt.
Yeah, definitely is. All that damage earlier on. He was clammed, wasn't he, by Tommy Erskine? So Erskine should have pretty similar damage as well, but they both have to make their way up through the field. I really like this sort of, not the spin by Rogers, but in the pit lane, he knew that he could have easily gotten alongside Erskine and probably even gotten ahead of him after the pit stop, but I think he sort of just was a bit lenient with that and sort of used that as a little bit of an apology and just backed off in terms of letting Tommy Erskine pass.
Yeah, so Martin Cronkey does continue to lead the race here. He's got that gap now up to 3.7 seconds over Mac Backham. De Jong still in 3rd place. Stephen Michaels still in 4th. And well, I will say, Stephen Michaels, as the laps go by, he's the one driver managing to make it work. Yao Vaz, I mean, when you're a driver of Yao Vaz, you're running in that kind of top 15, Jake. For him, this could go either way. This could give him a top 10. It could demote him to the bottom end of the top 20.
It could do, and I think Yao Vaz has been riding a very, very strong race here today. He's currently in 6th place. He's only 3 seconds off of Stephen Michaels on the same strategy, which is absolutely perfect for him as he's about to be overtaken by a certain Jurgis. On the brakes, down the inside, makes the move. So Yao Vaz is in a great position right now to get himself some good points. Top 10, I'm probably thinking, is a little bit out of reach at this stage. Top 15 is probably what he's battling for at the moment. And well, I can say with only 22 cars running at the moment in this event, I think this title's over now.
Yeah, indeed. So, of course, we will confirm it at the end of the motor race, because who knows what can happen in any form of racing. But it's worth noting that we have got ourselves a bit of a higher rate of attrition, but we always expect that at Circuit of the Americas. Ricardo Orozco, Balas Remniak, David Williams and Peter Berryman, well, their cars are all on pit road. So Peter Berryman is officially out, but Ricardo, Remniak and Williams, their cars are still on pit road. We have got 22 drivers circulating on track. Mogarfilo is the last of them as it stands right now, as we've got Yao Vaz on towards pit road there, Johnny.
Yeah, this is the one stop, so they have stretched it out to a very adequate lap. We know lap 28 at 56, that's halfway of the distance there. So Vaz in, good stuff from him. Michael's still yet to pit. Can I just say, Vaz looks good on the one stop, but Michaels looks even better. It was a very long stop for Vaz, 10 seconds. So I want to take those comments back. He doesn't look good anymore on that one stop. But for Michaels, I'm really positive about his chances in this race.
Didn't Vaz have some issues at the start of the event as well? So a probable replacement front wing for him, Johnny?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why the long pit stops there. It's definitely not a penalty to be in the box for a lot longer.
Yeah, don't forget live timing and scoring is still available. Racebot.tv/timing. Let's go on board then with Stephen Michaels. That window is now open for him. He can come on towards pit road at any point from now on in and get to the end of the event. He heads himself now through 16, 17, 18. And now let's see if he'll come in at the conclusion of lap number 26 of his race. And he angles the car in. He will come on towards pit road. Probably the biggest pit stop in the World Championship Series for Race Clutch today. He was a little bit cautious coming on towards pit road, but I'll tell you what, I won't give him any issues for that one at all. He's just going to head himself now for his pit box as we have an overhead look then here at Circuit of the Americas, here live on the iRacing eSports Network and Racebot TV. And the pit stop time for Stephen Michaels, 3.9 seconds. Now, this is going to be really important. Where is he going to come on out? And the answer is going to be 13th place by the looks of it. He's ahead of quite a bit of traffic, but he has got Michael Partington 1.2 seconds ahead. Also worth noting, there was a second a pit stop there for Jamie Fluke. Jamie Fluke, if I remember correctly, Jay, also involved in that incident on lap 1.
It wasn't the lap 1 incident. It was an incident probably around lap 6 to about lap 7, but Jamie Fluke definitely behind at the moment, trying to make his strategy work, but he is also behind Yao Vaz, so Jamie Fluke is left with a lot of work to do. This is where Michaels now needs to use those tyres, Will, because he's got the fresh rubber on everybody else. First up on his hit list will be Michael Partington. Then he's got a bit of a gap to Kazuki Umeshima. Then there's the Rogers Erskard train, but by the time that he gets to probably Umeshima, Will, they'll start coming down in for their second round of stops. So work to be done. But for the moment, at least, still some very, very good battles and still some undecided positions on track.
Yeah, we've got a car off. That is David Acor. Ironically, it's his teammate going past, Ilka Harpalo. You don't need to worry about team orders anymore if you want to do so, guys. You didn't need to overshoot turn number 12. I'm sure that was completely unintentional, however. Tommy Erskard, I was just having a look at him. He's still got Josh Rogers behind. I will keep an eye out on this Michaels Partington battle, because I'm predicting right now that Michaels could possibly get about 8th place in this event. Ironically, 8th place in this event right now. It's the second of the two drivers from Apex Racing UK, Johnny, and Antoine Heglin is battling it out with his teammate. They have got themselves 9.2 seconds as an advantage to Tommy Erskard.
I'm very impressed with Anton. I wasn't expecting him to be so quick today, along the likes of Jamie Fluke. There are two drivers from that team who just haven't been able to test too much for this round. But Kevin Ellis Jr. was quite bullish about this team's chances. He thought the setup was well improved from Spa. I don't think Apex have really finished this season as strong as they anticipated, but nevertheless, it would be good to just get a break from all the hard work and testing. And this is the sort of knock-on effect, Will, that you have from just over-testing and burning out. You know, I feel like the Apex Racing UK drivers, all of them just really need a rest right now. Yeah,
Moritz Lohner is out of the event. I did also see switch of position. Jamie Fluke has gotten himself past Paul Ilbrink and has pulled himself out. 7 tenths to a second as a consequence of that one over the course of the last half a lap or so. So that move was made down in towards turn number 1. Behind, you still got Josh Rogers and Tommy Erskard. We still need to keep an eye out on this one, Jake.
Yes, we do. I just caught the end of the Moritz Lohner crash, and it's in a really interesting position. It's not a place you normally have a crash. It's around turn 6, I'd probably say, out on track. Turn 6, turn 7. So Williams eSports day pretty much done. But to the Tommy Erskard battle with Josh Rogers, it has been a sleeper battle, I will say, Will. It hasn't really kicked off in the way that many people thought that a battle would. They've been within half a second, 6 tenths. Every time they've crossed the start-finish lines, they cross under the Tequila Patron Bridge. But for the moment, at least, Rogers struggling with that dirty air through the opening section. It doesn't allow for any opportunities to make moves in the second half. You're not close enough. I think that Josh Rogers is again starting to struggle, especially the fact that he was the first driver to come down in and make a stop alongside Tommy Erskard at exactly the same time.
Yes, I'm glad I'm not the only one that struggles saying Tequila Patron, and of course, please drink responsibly, everyone. But as we're having a look through right now, the battles have calmed themselves down a little bit. So what we're going to do here, ladies and gentlemen, on Racesport TV and on the iRacing Esports Network is take ourselves a quick break, and we will take you to your race leader, and we're going to give you a little bit of Racesport TV fan immersion. Well, there was 2 laps here, ladies and gentlemen. One on board with Martin Kroenke and one on board with Mitchell de Jong. De Jong in 3rd place, and I said it a little bit earlier on, Jake. I mean, he's not really done much today, has he? He's qualified 3rd, running 3rd.
Outclassed. Just completely outclassed by Martin Kroenke and Mac Backham. I don't think this is what you can say anymore, Will, as a Mitchell de Jong track. It is not. It is a Martin Kroenke track. It's being proven by the fact that with still a 1/3 of the race left to go, he's got himself 10 seconds of an advantage. That's all you need to know. I've seen Ilkka Harpala have a crash a couple of laps to go as well. That was at turn 9. He got a snap of oversteer and into the Armco he went. But keep an eye on the battle for 5th place here, Will. Gap down to 1.6 between Jurgis and Jensen. It could be a top 5 lock for Coanda. First time ever.
Yeah, it could well be, as it was going to be interesting what happens with this Jensen situation in the 2nd pit stop. I personally believe, Johnny, that on paper, Jensen should get 4th place. I think he's done more in this race than Jurgis. I'm having a look at the fastest lap times. Jurgis' fastest lap times is about half a tenth of a second faster than Marcus Jensen, but I think Marcus Jensen's been more consistent here today.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Jurgis' tyres are 2 laps fresher, so that comes into play. And that might be why Jurgis is a little bit quicker. I think Pash is going well, you know, and I like this Pash Jurgis. You know, it's always going to be an improved Pash Jurgis. Anybody that heads to the Coanda culture is going to be more improved, so we could see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So can I ask then, if we've never had a 1, 2, 3, 4 in history, does it still count if it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yes.
Does that mean we've never... Okay, so it still counts then.
It's like,
so
like if you get a world record, it's also an Olympic record.
Ah, good point. All right, touche. So then it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, but we have to wait for it to get done. Right now I'm touching wood everywhere, and
I don't want to know what you're touching, Johnny. I'm not going to lie to you.
I was about to say I was wrong.
Josh Rogers, Tommy Erskard right now, P number 9, P number 10. That one continues. Of course, Erskard was able to get ahead about 4 or 5 laps ago, Jake. Josh Rogers is sticking behind, but Rogers should be the first driver, as you said earlier, on towards pit road about, 4 laps time?
I'd assume so. I'm not the strategy man when it comes to things like this, but I do assume Rogers should come in very, very soon. And if anything, I think Rogers should come in before Tommy Erskard, force Erskard's hand here, because as much as he wants to try and get past Tommy Erskard, he needs something like the undercut to come and help him, because nothing it seems that he wants to do works at the moment. Very content to just sit behind at a 1/10.5 when he reaches the braking zone and not try and force a move into turn 12. But for Josh Rogers, it's a case of wait, hope that a move gets done very, very soon. If not, use the stops to your advantage. They're there for a reason.
Yeah, indeed. So as we're having a look down through the list of retirees, Ilkka Harpala, Moritz Lohner, Ricardo Orozco, Balis Remniak, David Williams are all set on pit road, presumed out, shall we say. Peter Berriman is definitely out of this event. Antoine Hegelin versus Kevin Ellis Jr. That carries on. Let's have a look actually up the hill. This is the closest that Rogers has been as he kept his ERS. He's going to pull himself down to the inside in towards turn number 1, and Rogers will be able to try and always get back. P number 9, they're going to be side by side as they head themselves through 2, but no, that is a big move there, Johnny, and he did it the right way. He waited, as you said, until you've got the full supplement of ERS.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff from Rogers. And I think it's finally been enough laps where he thinks Erskard's probably gotten over that little spin that they ended up collecting Rogers in. So Rogers thought, this would be a good time to pass him finally. It was a good move nevertheless. And what could have been the potential for Josh Rogers? I really thought this was a 4th place finish in the waiting for him, but he's thrown it away all himself.
Well, also, it's one thing that is worth noting. We have a look at the fact that Burst Esports was able, a damaged Burst Esports car was able to get past a Coanda car. That gives a bit more hope, maybe, to Marcus Jensen in terms of his battle with Pat Jurgis going on as well. Checking in on Stephen Michaels, because, of course, he's the lead driver on the one-stop strategy. He is only right now a total of 7 laps into his stint as he works himself right now into into the tricky, horrible right-hander, which I absolutely hate this entire section. He's 7 laps into his stint. His last lap was a 139.261. That's actually one of the faster lap times. It's the 4th fastest lap time set that last time by. He's catching Kazuki Umeshima at a rate of half a second a lap. So it should be safe for him to have clear track the entire way through the next round of pit stops. And Stephen Michaels, I mean, unless something horribly goes wrong here, Jake, should be getting a good top 10 for Race Clutch.
Certainly could do, but he's got to try and find a bit more pace. Umashima's 39.9 that last time by. Look at how much he closed in on Tommy Erskard that last lap. A full 1.4 seconds on that last lap. So we saw how the overtake did something for Tommy Erskard. He's now completely dropped the DRS there or thereabouts from Joshua Rogers. He completely has. So it seems that the tyres are spent on Tommy, and now Kazuki Umeshima is going to go, right, here's some dessert then, it seems, because, well, if you're going to be a sitting duck, I might as well go and take my pudding and make a very, very quick and decisive move.
I will never have duck and pudding at the same time. Unless it's black pudding, actually. Tommy Erskard, Kazuki Umeshima. Well, the issue of that one was, I think that Erskard just got stuck in that dirty air all the way through Sector 1, and that's what hurt him. He did a 141.300 that last time by. Now Umeshima is the driver having to follow, but he hasn't had to do so too often today, Johnny. And this will mean that, in theory, Umeshima's tyres should be on the fresh side.
Yeah, they definitely will be. Look at him. He's... I'd be impatient right now. He certainly should be able to make a way past Erskard, even into the final corner. Erskard ducks into the pit lane there, so that will save Umeshima a bit of time. And also, Umeshima needs to remember he should have DRS here. When he heads into the zone, he flicks it on, so that's good stuff from Umeshima. Good awareness. Erskard into the pit lane, though, along with Rogers. Those two have, unfortunately for both of them, been tied together this entire race.
Yeah, it's one of the quirks and the rules of the way the DRS system works. The activation flap occurs, and if you're in a second, it doesn't matter if the car goes on towards pit road, pulls over at the side of the road, whatever, you still have the chance to utilize it. Tommy Erskard has made his pit stop. We can never see his pit stops. Paul Ilbrink has come on towards pit road as well. So more pit stops are coming then. That second round is almost wide open, shall we say. Paul Ilbrink, well, he's still got a ton of work to do, and I don't think it is going to be enough for him, unfortunately. He looks as though he will have to go through the Pro Series of road racing. And, well, Jake, that's sad because he is one of the longest established drivers in the World Championship Series.
He is, but let's not forget, it's not the case that he's not officially unestablished if he qualifies again through the Pro Series, because technically he'd still be there.
That's what I meant.
The longest amount of seasons, but it comes down to Paul Ilbrink of why didn't it happen, and I sort of threatened it at the back end of last season as well, Will, at Circuit of the Americas. I said that Paul Ilbrink was a little bit lucky to get back into the championship. I thought that his pace needed a little bit of work. He's had some good finishes. He had a great finish, actually, at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, which was a crazy race, but aside from that, maybe Monza, it hasn't really worked out for Paul Ilbrink this season. He hasn't had the overall pace to stay top 20. And despite being 17th and clawing back at this stage a good 17 points on David Williams, that's still not enough. He's left himself too much work to do today.
Can I say, Paul Ilbrink came into this race with a safety rating of 1.01. I don't even know how.
We've just had ourselves a big pit train, but now we've got our leader on pit road again. Martin Kroenke gonna make his final pit stop of the 2018 season, and the pit party for Coanda is going to start again because Backham's on pit road and De Jong is on pit road. And it's worth noting that Pash Gergis lost out to Kevin Ellis Jr. a moment ago when they came on towards pit road last time by. Kevin Ellis Jr. came in 2 laps ago, Pash Gergis came in 1 lap ago, and Ellis Jr. was able to go around the outside through turn 1. We saw that one live. Antoine Hegelin did lose a bit of ground, but is only 1.3 seconds back. So that is Martin Kroenke. His final pit stop is done. Marty Piatella, he's looking as though he's going to finish 4th place here today, out and away in 4 seconds, as it was a conservative pit stop there, Johnny, for Martin Kroenke. 4.2, but you don't need to when you're leading the race by 4.2 seconds.
Yeah, he's all right. He doesn't need to worry about that. He's got enough of a buffer. He should be able to lead that Coanda 1, 2, 3 at least, potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who knows? As we see Umashima exit the pit lane here, Kazuki again finding that strategy is going to come into play for him. He's got a bit of overtaking to do in this final stint for him to get inside the top 10, but Umashima with a decent end to the season.
Yeah, indeed. So we have got a couple of people still waiting to do second pit stops here at Circuit of the Americas. But of course, we've also got our drivers on the one-stoppers. They are Stephen Michael, Yao Vaz, Jamie Fluke, and Dion Vergers. You can probably put Mo Garfilo into that list actually as well. So this is the driver who is leading the race, who has pretty much now got 1 hand and 4 fingers on the 2018 World Championship trophy. And of course, that will come with a cool $10,000 and championship ring, etc. Tau, Martin Kroenke. I've actually seen, I actually carried and owned a World Championship for about 3 months, Johnny, because I had to transport it over to where I was in America for Hugo Louise.
Yeah, you had to carry a what? Sorry, I didn't understand that.
2011 World Championship trophy. I actually owned Hugo Louise's 2011 World Championship trophy for a bit.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking about something else. Yeah, you're finally, when are you going in November? So a couple of weeks, right?
No, this was last year.
Oh,
yeah.
You're visiting him in a couple of weeks,
Yeah,
aren't you?
he's getting married in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, congrats to him. You got married earlier a few months ago too. Did we ever announce that on this broadcast? Congrats to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think we did on one broadcast. I can't remember. But yeah, Hugo Louise, Race.tv director and co-owner, is getting married in a couple of weeks. So congratulations to him. It's just searching through. Piatella is behind Stephen Michaels right now. This is a battle for track position. And this is where, if you are Stephen Michaels, Jake, this is where I talk about racing smart. You don't have to race everyone the same way he did with, what's his name, Matt Backham at the end of the last stint, because he just basically now needs to make sure in terms of time he is faster than people like Pash Gergis, Antoine Hegelin and Yao Vaz, so he can allow people like Piatella to go by, because at the end of the day he is going to go by and eventually Jensen's going to go by. You just want to make it the least resistant path possible.
Well, this is the issue that he's got. It's 4 seconds back to Pash Gergis in 8th position, so he should drop at least that far. Another 1.2 back to Higeland, so he should drop back to 9th position. Then you've got Yao Vaz on the same strategy, Fluke on the same strategy. You look at who isn't, it's Josh Rogers, who is currently in his own scrap and has just got past Jamie Fluke on this lap into 11th place. So for Josh Rogers, that gap is around 16 seconds, and 16 seconds in 17 laps, 38.6 last time by for Josh Rogers. Michaels did a 38.8. He's been close 2 seconds a lap, so it's going to be a case of how good are Michaels' tyres going to be if he can stave off the likes of Josh Rogers for a top 10.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that the top 3 Coanda drivers last time by all did 137s. Matt Backham actually was the fastest, 137.792. Piatella actually didn't gain as much as they thought that last time by, so I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination, Johnny, that Michaels needs to just move out the way. What I'm saying is, if Piatella does put a foot down to the inside, don't fight it as hard as you would do necessarily if you're batting for the race win, and this is where I think Piatella might get his run.
Yeah, Michaels has to basically drive like Paul di Resta of the ages and just make sure he doesn't lose any time on this one strategy. Piatella straight through. That's not even a chance for Michaels to defend. Yes, I'll let him straight past. Jensen will make his way past soon enough, but I really like this performance today from Stephen Michaels. Very impressive. The man is just representing Race Clutch really well in his first few races for the team.
Yeah, indeed. So, just looking back behind, Antoine Hegelin is still in a scrap with Pash Gergis as well. Having a look at the last lap times between the two of them ever since they've come out of pit road, and Antoine Hegelin has been faster, Johnny. So, Hegelin looking to have another battle right now with Pash, and that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as I see it, is not really likely to happen right now unless Gergis starts pushing.
He can push all he wants and he might wear the tires out. Sometimes natural pace is just what you need, and it might be just a little bit too much to ask out of Pash. Hegelin right now is, if somebody has a lack of testing time, we'll expect them to improve throughout the race, you know, with the more laps they obtain with the car. And right now we're seeing this from Anton Hegelin. The more laps he's putting in with the car, this extra 41 laps of experience, he's getting quicker and quicker. Got the most potential to extract out of himself in this event.
Yeah, let's go back on board with Marcus Jensen and have a look at the lap times. And this is what we talked about before. The one-stopper versus the two-stopper, it can be close. And actually, Jensen's not even going to wait until turn number 12 because he knows that he's going to get the DRS anyway here. So he's making the move early as they come through turn number 11. Then Jensen's going to get the DRS flat wide open. Although, actually, I will say, so does the driver of Stephen Michaels. So it's not just over yet. In towards turn number 12, and now Michaels will concede, and Kevin Ellis Jr. is 7 tenths to a second back, Jake.
Well, this is cork in the bottle stuff, which Marcus Jensen now needs to find probably a second before Kevin Ellis Jr. makes the move, but just like that, down the inside, trying to steal one, and there is the pocket picked, but not forked decisively. Ellis Jr.'s got to run the uber wide line through the triple apex right and does it the long way around to get a position. Great work from Kevin Ellis Jr., and he's kept himself just within a second as well. That's some fantastic overtaking. Now Gergis has got to make the move straight away because Hegelin will want to get through as quickly as possible. It's about keeping in the train, and this is what's known, Will, in the business as being freight trained if you're Stephen Michaels.
Indeed so, and Gergis is through, but at the same time you kind of expect it to happen in these circumstances. Gergis is through, and Antoine Hegelin might well be coming through in towards, yeah, he will be alongside and past through the S's. That was close. Michaels down into P number 9, but still that's as much about the one stop versus the two stop as it is about the drivers, and that's one of the things. How do you manage the tires? And one could almost argue, Johnny, that maybe Stephen Michaels was just pushing a little bit too hard at the start of that second stint on the one stopper.
Oh yeah, possibly. And who knows? I just think he didn't have the pace. Remember, he did start this race anyway from the 15th position, so if he finishes above that, I think it's a successful one-stop. At least a couple of positions above 15th. So logically, the one-stop the driver's calculated is quicker than the two-stop. It's just harder to make work. So technically and ironically, it may actually be slower than a two-stop. So that's what you have to understand. Does your driving style suit this type of strategy? I'm always comfortable with making more stops, I think, as a driver, just because I think it's the best way to get that confidence and that grip on the rubber. Making those lower stops, you need a whole bit of luck, a whole lot of skill, of course, to do as well.
Yeah, indeed so. So we're going to take a quick break here on RaceSport TV and on iRacing Live. Do not go anywhere. The last part of the season will be live next. The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original eSport racing game. This is iRacing.
afraid of. Those feelings are made of. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up.
4 more kilometers.
Oh, there we go! They touch!
This time, like the last time, I'm moving so fast, I'm ready to ride.
Cronky! Down to the inside of Hoosie's off!
Passenger throws the block, and he will keep him behind him.
My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down. Hand over my crown. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop. Turning the track up. I'll never go back down. Hand over my heart. I do this for my town. I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Welcome back to the final 11 laps of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series 2018 as Josh Rogers breezes past Yao Vaz. And his next victim, well, that's Stephen Michaels. 8 seconds up the road, but he's been closing at the rate of 1.1 seconds a lap. As we come into the final part of the season, also worth noting, we've still got this nice little battle going on between Kevin Ellis Jr. and Marcus Jensen on track. That will go down to the final few laps of this event. Williamson along with Jake Sperry and Jonathan Simone here on RaceSport TV and on the iRacing eSport network. As let's just have a look right now. This freeway battle actually that's going on between Kevin Ellis Jr., Pas Gergis, and then Antoine Higlin. Yes, they are 2 little battles, but they are merging into a 4-way battle. Gergis right now, we talked earlier how he had to get a move on. He's not. He's been losing time here, Johnny, to Kevin Ellis Jr. and at number 98, Apex Racing UK machine.
Which is very weird because Ellis Jr., out of these 4, between Jensen, Ellis Jr., Jurgens, and Higgelen that you mentioned, Ellis Jr.'s tyres are 1 lap fresher than the rest of the other 3 who all put it on the same lap. So Higgelen right now is DRS on Jurgens. Jurgens out of the zone in terms of Kevin Ellis Jr., but Kevin maybe had a slight peek there into turn 1 and couldn't get the move done, but Jurgens is under attack right now. He hasn't had the best of an end to this race right now, and who knows, is he tiring out? Is it mental strength? Is he just not up to scratch with pace? Maybe even the setup doesn't respond well to low fuel. Could be a whole lot of factors.
Yeah, indeed. So ahead, Kevin Ellis Jr. versus Marcus Jensen. Let's have a look at the lap times between the 2 of them. And, well, they're just trading lap times at this stage, Jake. No one's really making a move over the other. Maybe just biding time for something towards the end of this one. One thing we haven't talked about all day either is that some of the Apex Racing UK cars have added some green to their livery as well.
They have, and I like seeing that Apex are changing up their livery. It's been practically the same since I got into sim racing, which was 2015, if my memory serves me correct, maybe back end 2014. But you see, the livery that they have, a little bit of green actually does well. It suits that sort of sea bit of colour, and to forgive me for turning into Cameron Walsh, I like the fact that it makes them a little bit more different than they already are.
Okay. Hi, Cam, by the way, if you're watching. As Marcus Jensen versus Kevin Ellis Jr. They will come past the start-finish line again. We are now into the last 10 laps of a season. And what a season it has been. I mean, we've had so many thrills and spills over the course of this 2018 campaign, it would be impossible to really name them all. But, I mean, two stick out to me more than anything else. And, oh my word, Kevin Ellis Jr., what a wiggle. That's not one of them, but that could have been. That was a huge wiggle. Before we go any further, in towards turn 2, and that one deserves an instant replay. Okay, coming up the hill, Kevin Ellis Jr. And this is part of the thing as well about old tyres sometimes. In towards that first corner, then accelerating flat out through turn number 2, and he just hit the apex at the wrong point there. And Kevin Ellis Jr., I mean, he was lucky, Johnny, not to be in an Armco barrier.
Yeah, and you're right there, Will. The tyres always make that worse, but we did see in qualifying, drivers with fresher rubber were struggling with that. We saw Jamie Fluke have a moment earlier on an hour and a half ago in qualifying. So it's just the type of corner and the way these tires respond to it. It's not friendly at all. So it's somewhere where you just have to gradually maybe lift off the throttle, maybe go 80% of the throttle to management. You could short shift, but if you can manage that and adjust the setup to be able to handle that corner at 100% throttle, that is the quickest way around there. But Kevin Ellis Jr. just hit it the wrong way. Lucky he saved that, by the way. Great reactions from the young Scottish man.
Yeah, let's have a look through the biggest movers and shakers in this event so far today. And surprisingly, no change to your top 3 drivers. We thought that De Jong might have tried to do something aggressive, but Kroenke probably had something in his back pocket anyway. And the 3 want to work as a unit to get 1, 2, 3 in the championship. Marty Piatella is up 4 places. He is in at P4 as we speak. Marcus Jensen is down 1, but, well, we talked about the fact that anything can change in the last few laps of these motor races. Kevin Ellis Jr. is up 3, Paskerg is up 3, Antoine Hegelin and Stephen Michaels. Let's give them credit, as well as Kazuki Yamashima, because they are up by more than 5 places each, Jake.
8 positions for Antoine Hegeland, 6 for Stephen Michaels, and a good 9 positions for Kazuki Umeshima. Michaels isn't guaranteed, though, because he's dropping a second a lap to Josh Rogers. The gap is 6 seconds with 8 laps remaining here at COTA. And not only that, there is Tommy Erskard 2 seconds back of that. So we could see a last lap scrap between Erskard and Stephen Michaels. So the top 10 still not secure for the Race Clutch American. Started the season off, of course, at Positive Sim Racing, but we have seen some great moves, and it could be even more for Antoine Hegeland if he wants to make the move on Jurgis. But as we said earlier in the broadcast, back of the train, toughest place to go and make a move.
Yeah, that's the green we were talking about earlier, by the way, from the Apex Racing UK machine. My mind, Johnny, I mean, I want to put it down to 2 things. There was the last lap of Phillip Island and the last lap of Watkins Glen. I mean, yes, there are others, but they are the 2 that stick out the most to me. I mean, yes, Spa a couple of weeks ago, it moved the championship. That's not important in my opinion, but Watkins Glen in particular, Hutu keeping his winning streak at Watkins Glen is special, and Phillip Island was pretty damn cool.
It's one of the greatest, Phillip Island was big too, as you mentioned, but the Watkins Glen final lap was one of the best 2 moments of his career, to be honest with you. He's had a career spanning about 20 years. And I thought maybe all his top career moments were done, but that was one of them this year. Just a remarkable victory, and he's still undefeated. I really hope he returns to the series next year. You know, I don't think Gregor's not really retiring, so he should be there. But I think the motivation for Gregor is that he definitely, both he and the Redline team, they want to see different things. They want to see different stuff in the series. It's been the same series for 9 years straight. You know, for them, it would be quite motivating to have something different. But back to the championship battle, as you talked about, I still think it's been a successful campaign for De Jong, right, Will? Like, you think about it, a lot of race wins again, back to victory lane, if you want to call it. And this is the highest he's ever finished in the championship, too, if you think about it, in his whole career.
And I actually want to go one, as Paul Ilbrink, by the way, just goes past Mo Garfilo, or does he? Because he pushes wide through turn number 1. And no, he's going to have to do all that hard work again. As well as it being a standout season for Mitchell de Jong, actually, the driver who has probably impressed me the most in some ways here, Jake, is Matt Backham in 3rd, because there was a lot of eyebrows raised when he first joined the stable over at Commander Simsport, but the majority of this season, he has just been dependable and consistent and fast.
He has been. He's got 3 race victories this season, and he's 5 seconds off of Martin Kroenke at Circuit of the Americas, a track which Kroenke has won each of the last 3 years at, if he can keep it together for another 7 laps of racing right now. Mac is improving so much as a driver and is very likeable up and down the paddock, and we've seen how Mac has now started to kick on and has got his first 3 race victories, the same way that Alexius Yakala did but couldn't get the momentum going a few seasons ago, the same way Tamala did a couple of seasons ago and couldn't get the momentum going. If Mac Backham gets the momentum going, gets a season under his belt like this one, and then runs with it for the next one, Mac's a title contender, Will.
Yeah, and also you've got to remember the fact that Ati Kirchhoff was in a similar situation many moons ago, Johnny. But I mean, it'll be interesting more than anything else to see who is racing in Co-Anda SimSports next year, because it will come down, in my opinion, to who is racing in that team in the World Championship Series to determine who will be winning it. We've heard so many rumours over the years that I refuse to believe any of them, but Matt Backham has got a standout potential opportunity.
I think he does. I mean, I think he's the most improved driver this season. Out of all the drivers out there, hands down, if there was an award like you do in the NBA and all this other leagues, you give it to Matt Backham. Look, he's 5 seconds off race victory from the greatest sim racer in the world right now in Martin Kroenke. And he wasn't like this at the start of the year. All his race wins at the start of the year, I mean, even Mac will admit, like, you look at the races he's won, you go back to the likes of Montreal, Martin had that technical issue, so it gifted Mac the victory. Same with Monza, you know, again, Monza, Martin had the DNF, Martin crashed, so Mac did beat him based on consistency, but Martin was probably quicker on the day, and again, like, just gifted the victory. But in terms of his improvement, I think Mac Backham, if he improves over the next 4 months to the start of next year, he can make that 5-second improvement here over a race distance. Could he be the next world champion of this series?
Maybe. As just to let you know, there's Martin Kroenke's had an incident. So it's just an off-track incident, but he's had an off-track incident. So the perfect race for Martin Kroenke is unfortunately no more. I would also say as well, I mean, it comes down to a lot of things. We talked about this in the pre-race show. We talked about how the changing dynamics of esports and where people want to go and what people want to do. I will say one thing: it's that what we've seen is the teams, not just in this series, but in all 6 of the iRacing World Championship Series, the teams who focus on 1 or maybe 2 series the most are generally the teams who actually get the best results. And it's always about how thinly you're going to spread the Marmite, or in your case, sorry Johnny, the Vegemite. But as we have a look through the field, I'm keeping an eye out on this Pash Gergis battle, as he's got Kevin Ellis Jr. still ahead. He's got Antoine Hegelin just behind, and Gergis right now, I think he's the next driver who we expect to see develop more in 2019, Jake.
I think he is, and after a debut season which saw a good glimpse at what Gergis was capable of at Core Sim Racing with a 4th place qualification at Spa-Francorchamps, I think this has been a good grounded base for Gergis, especially moving away from Core, going to Co-Anda, which is always a big step and a bold step, and one which I think Gergis is taking and will take very, very nicely. I think, again, Gergis has got the GT effort as well, which is going to be something just to keep an eye out on with what he's capable of doing. But I think Gergis is one of those drivers who will, again, improve and will do very well. But the one thing I do worry about is just how much of a Co-Anda series this has turned into in the final stages of this season. It seems that everyone has admitted Co-Anda's the best team, and they've not been willing to fight that one out wholeheartedly towards the end. They found something else. Now everyone's got to go and find that once more. And yes, I'd like to see Redline there. Yes, I'd want to see G2 there. If they're not committed, though, don't try it. I want to see Apex find that extra step. I want to see Burst find that extra step. And I think that a team will do it. Next year, though, I really hope it's not a case of Coanda 1, 2, 3 every race.
Well, no, and this is a part of what we've talked about, for quite a part of the pre-race show in terms of spreading the Marmite or the Vegemite too thinly across too many different series, and this is why, you don't see Coanda doing 1,400 different series, like I talked about earlier. And this is the interesting thing as sim racing moves in towards 2019. One comment we had on social media: Hutu got old and can't win anymore. RIP. I disagree with that. It's more of a case, I would argue, Johnny, that his support in many ways has diminished, and I know Dom Duhan's immediately going to go onto social media and claim that it's not, but it has. You know, there used to be 4 drivers in that red line stable. In fact, I remember 6 drivers in that red line stable pretty much at one point, who were all actively racing or testing. You had Ben Cornett, you had Luke McLean, Alexei Isiakola, you had Ollie Pakala, you can add Enzo Benito, you can add Ati Kurakov to that list. And it's not just about testing those situations, it's the racing of other people and pushing a car to its limit over 50, 60 laps and then comparing notes.
Hutu is able to win 2 races this year at 39 years of age in his 9th season in this series. And in 20 years of racing at the top level of sim racing, as we see Rogers here about to make a move on Michaels, who's on the one-stop strategy. And he's been able to do that with minimal team support. Now, I'm not trying to disregard the team at Redline, but their focus has been elsewhere. Hutu as well, in terms of motivation for this series, like I said before, Redline wants some more oomph out of the series in itself. For Hutu, he's been doing this for 9 years. Does he need a new challenge somewhere else? And it's so impressive. He's been able to get 2 race wins, and at this age, and it's just remarkable. You know, I think it's been understated for what he's been able to achieve. He may not be the best Hutu we've ever seen, but he's still one of the best sim racers in the world, and he will, in my opinion, he is the greatest sim racer of all time at the moment.
Well, and also, let's not forget that Hutu is the driver who remains undefeated at Watkins Glen, as we just talked about. And he's improved as a racer over the last couple of years. And I'm always the first to say that. There's many people who said in the early part of Hutu's career that he was a good driver, not necessarily a good racer. He's actually a really good racer. And the final lap of Watkins Glen proved that one to be. Antoine Hegelin, by the way. Let's talk about some of the racing with 2.5 laps to go very quickly. Antoine Hegelin heads himself down the back straightaway. Now, if there's a time for people to start making moves, Jake, this is the time for people to start making moves.
It is, and one of them is Josh Rogers, who's just got past Stephen Michaels, who is now being harassed by Tommy Erskard in the battle for the top 10. Higeland not close enough to pass Jurgis, but look at Erskard, DRS, ERS, what have you got to fight for a top 10, Mr. Michaels? I think you're 2.5 laps short of getting that one working for you. Answer is you were 2.5 laps short of a top 10, and as such, Erskard makes his way through, gets himself into the top 10, which I think for Tommy will be a good result, but one when he started 5th, that's not where he wanted to finish, but ultimately, a good move there, but Michaels just running out of tyre life at the end.
Yeah, and that's what I said earlier on, Johnny. It was getting to the point, in my opinion, that he was almost pushing those tyres too hard when he had no traffic around him, and that cost him a little bit towards the end.
Yeah, that could be the case, you're right. So, Michaels, nevertheless, still a successful event, like I said. If he finished just a few places above his starting position of 15th, that means the one stop was successful and it did work, and even more successful for the likes of Anton Hegelin, who two-stopped this race, started 16th and up at 8th. And like I said, well, back to, I don't mean to switch the topic to Anton Hegelin, but he is by far improved every single lap of this event. I've been well impressed by him. But nevertheless, can I just say, before Kroenke wins his 3rd World Championship, it's just been remarkable to see Martin Kroenke's rise through the ranks and how successful he's been. And right now, I just so happy for the guy. He's worked so hard, and he's a guy that deserves every minute of praise. And everybody that criticizes him for saying, like, oh, you know, it's always boring seeing Martin in all these races. Well, you just got to outwork him, because he's doing that to everybody else.
Final lap of the season. It is a Coanda 1-2-3 right now. Martin Kroenke, Mac Backham, Mitchell de Jong. It seems on paper, like once again, it has been the Coanda train. But let's not forget that G2 early on, they did show some promise before they decided that it wasn't for them this season. We talked about it already. Gregor Hutu's won 2 races this season. Martin Kroenke has not been perfect. De Jong has pushed him hard, and also he's been pushed hard by Mac Backham, who arguably is the most improved driver in that stable in 2018. The big stories of the season as well, the continued rise and growth and development of Burst Esports. They are arguably the team of the season by what they've been able to do with a 2-car effort, race in, race out. Yes, they still got some work to do in terms of managing tyres over the course of the race, but you know what? Teams have come and struggled with that before, and now Burst are actually having a better season than them 2-3 years on. It is now just time for Martin Kroenke to work himself through the final sweeping corners here at Circuit of the Americas, and they say the stars and stripes are burning bright deep in the heart of Texas. Well, it is deep in the heart of Texas where Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion of Grand Prix racing. Martin Kroenke is once again a world champion, and it is Coanda 1, Coanda 2, Coanda 3 in terms of the championship. We're going to see the parade in a moment's time as Mac Backham will start to pull up behind. Mitchell de Jong is a further 10 seconds down the road. But for Martin Kroenke, it didn't always look as though this was going to be his season. Mitchell de Jong had led the championship at points. Mac Backham looked as though he could make it his championship. It was the perseverance by Martin Kroenke in the latter stage of the season, like he always does. He is Mr. Consistency, and Kroenke is champion again. Waiting for the rest of your field to cross the start-finish line. But there we see your now 3-time world champion, Martin Kroenke. Phenomenal work by him again, Johnny.
What a title for him. Like we said, just congrats to the German. 3 world titles to his name. He's creeping in on Hutu's record 5 titles. And can we call him Mr. 3-time finally? Martin Kroenke, well deserved.
Well, yeah, technically you can almost call him 4 if you count what he did in terms of the GT series. It is worth noting that Stephen Michaels and Kazuki Yamashima had a fantastic last half a lap, and Stephen Michaels was able to hold on to that. But let's then get the picture celebration ready. There's 2 Coanda drivers. There's 3 Coanda drivers in shot right now. I am wondering how many of them we're going to get in this photo op. Well, we're not going to get Pat Gergis. He's already pulled off track. We might see Tommy Yersgaard. We'll find out about that one in a moment. But certainly the top 3 drivers in the championship finishing in the top 3 positions here today at Circuit of the Americas. And let's have a look from up above as Matt Backham pulls alongside to congratulate Martin Kroenke as they work through turn 18 and turn 19. Now, it'll be a very Kroenke thing to go on towards pit road at this point, but he is actually going to stay out on track, and they will work themselves towards the start finish line, and they'll slow it down for the photo op. So I almost thought we might see some donuts there. We haven't yet, but they all pull together as they come towards the checkered flag mark. Coanda Sim Sports 1, 2, 3 in the championship in 2018. And if you want a photo op, ladies and gentlemen, here is your time to have it. Coanda dominant in 2018. It'll just help if we can actually get a good camera angle on it. Thanks, guys. There we are. We can zoom in on that one at the very least. Martin Kroenke, Mitchell de Jong, Mac Backham, 1, 2, 3 in the championship. Dominant today by Coanda. And I do believe we are going to get a fourth driver. Yep, we are going to see Marty Piatella just join in as well. What a day it has been for Coanda. And there the donut star. Of course it's going to be him. Of course it's going to be the finish machine. Let's have a look at your final race results here from what has been the end of the season, but still the start of many new chapters. Martin Kroenke takes victory by 4.3 seconds then over Mac Backham, Mitchell de Jong in third place and Marty Piatella in fourth. It is the first time in the history of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series that we've had 4 drivers from the same team in the top 4 positions. At one point, it looked as though it might have been 5, but Marcus Jensen in 5th for Burst Esports and Kevin Ellis Jr. for Apex Racing UK said no. That ain't going to happen. Not today. Pash Gergis then in 7th place for Coanda. Apex Racing UK's Antoine Heglin in 8th place. Josh Rogers in 9th for Burst. And again, 2 Burst esports drivers in the top 10. And VOS Coanda Sim Sports, they round out your top 10 with Tommy Erskard. Going back to page number 2, and Stephen Michaels, he was about 3 laps short of getting himself a top 10 finish or race clutch, but he'll be impressed and happy with 11th place, leading half a lap here today as well. Kazuki Umeshima coming home 12th place for Radicals Online. Couldn't do anything about Michaels at the line. It was almost a drag race. Umeshima couldn't quite get up one position. Jamie Fluke in P number 14 for the Apex Racing UK team. And Michael Partington rounds out your top 15 and is safe and has a ticket to the 2019 iRacing World Championship Series. David Cole for the Orion Race team. Hell's teammate, 1 place behind, Dion Vergers. P16, P17 for Orion, then Paul Ilbrink and Mo Garfilo, a duo of Radicals Online drivers in 18th and 19th. Daniel Beda for the University of Isabella 1, a positive sim racing car, rounds out your top 20. Finally, Ilka Hapala for the Orion Race team is the first of most of your retirees. Moritz Lohner 22nd, out. Ricardo Orozco for Positive Sim Racing, out. Race Clutch Pilots Remniak is out. Coanda Sim Sports David Williams, well, he's going to have to go down to the pro road. He was out early. And Peter Berriman out early as well. Here on the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, we are just waiting for our now 3-time champion. But Jake, Coanda, they had their top 3 drivers in the top 3 positions. Kroenke did what he had to do.
He did. He qualified perfectly. He got himself out to the front. And what more can you ask? He wasn't touched at all in that race. He had a traditional Kroenke drive. He broke the field early. He just held a gap over Mac Backham. And I probably think he could have found 5 seconds more if he wanted to push that margin. But Martin Kroenke has proven once again why he is the greatest driver in this series, why he is a 3-time successive champion, and why he is well on the way to closing down the 5-time record of a certain Finnish Gregor Hutu.
Yeah, indeed, sir. And one thing that is very interesting to note, of course, Johnny, it is a mark of a good driver not to give away your full hand. The same way a good poker player will never give away a full hand. If he wanted to go 5 seconds faster, he possibly could, but we will never know. And that is why Kroenke has maintained an edge over the last couple of years, because when he needs to pull it out, he can.
He's just been that remarkable. You know, he's etching his name into the greats of all time in sim racing, and I think it might already be etched, if I have to say so. I'm just delighted to see how his career ends right now. Is this the limit for Martin? Is 4 world titles possible? Maybe even eclipsing Gregor? Who knows? We'll wait and find out.
Well, we have got P1, P2, P3, and P4, all Coanda Sim Sports drivers making history here. But of course, what we have got is Martin Kroenke, now a 3-time world champion of Grand Prix racing. And it came down to the final round, Martin. You made us wait for it, but you are now officially a 3-time champion. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
First of all, were you worried at all about, anything coming into this event, knowing what happened with De Jong last time out?
Yeah, I mean, you're always a little bit worried, even if the sort of before the race it looks pretty good. You have a 70-point gap or so, but a lot of stuff can happen. I mean, either technical glitches or you have an unfortunate incident in turn 1 or so in lap 1 and have to retire, and then things can look a whole lot different. So I was worried about it, but that's always the case with me. I'm always worried.
First run of qualifying wasn't the best, but we often see you out-qualified the first run by Matt Backham. Second lap, how close to 100% was that for you?
Well, I was pushing as much as I could, but the lap wasn't perfect, unfortunately. Both of the laps weren't perfect. Before turn, 17, 18 or so, the last left-hander in the infield, I locked up in both of the laps a little bit, which isn't ideal. And in the second lap, I also had a massive issue in turn 2. Bottomed out on the curb on the inside and went straight for a little bit. So it wasn't ideal, but the laps, I guess, for everyone weren't perfect, because at this track, you rarely get a perfect lap.
Race itself, you got away to a bit of a slow start, actually. I almost thought that Mac was going to try and look to the outside of you into turn 1. Maybe Mitchell try and dive bomb you into turn 1. Was it just difficulties getting off the line, clutch issues?
Seemingly, I can't get a good launch at this track. All the time in practice, when I was practicing launches as well, the launches weren't as good as Max or Mitchell's or Paschalis launches in the hosted sessions. So I don't know what's up with it. Either I get wheel spin or I don't get enough power down at all. I have to look at it and see why that is. But luckily it was enough to stay in the lead for turn 1. But yeah, the launch wasn't the best.
From turn 1 till the end of the rest of the race was kind of boring from our perspective, to be honest, for you. Led pretty much... In fact, I think you did lead every lap, because you did overtake Stephen Michaels before the end of the lap and secured your 3rd World Championship. How does it feel now to be not only a 3-time World Champion in the Grand Prix Series, but I believe a 4-time World Champion overall?
No, just 3 times.
Just 3 times, just 3. I get you confused sometimes, but you are a 3-time World Champion of Grand Prix racing. And adding, of course, to Coanda's now illustrious record that's been, transformative ever since the switch happened from Free ID.
Yeah, really happy about it so far. Ever since the team has formed, we've picked up quite well. I think won the first 2 or 3 races after the team has been founded, and then winning a bunch of championships afterwards. Yeah. A good run.
One question: what's next?
I have no idea. I mean, there's a couple of races coming up in SCO sometime soon. I think in 2 weeks is the next one already. That's on the list for the winter, and then we'll see about WCS in 2019.
Well, before we let you go, Martin, who do you want to give a shout out to from that Coanda Sim Sports organisation?
First of all, of course, to all the teammates that have put in the work to get the car ready and do the setup work and everything. So huge shout out to them. Also to our spotters who do the strategy in every single race, and especially this season with the increased tire wear and the additional strategic options that you have with multiple stops in a race. Those guys play a very important role, and I can't thank them enough for their work. Then, of course, also a huge shout out to our sponsors, to Virtual Racing School, Hoisingveld, Enron Design, SimQuip, Joel Real Timing, Vitec, also to you guys. And also a huge thanks to friends and family who have been supportive all the time.
Well, congratulations, Martin Kroenke. Congratulations, Coanda, on their 3rd iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series victory in a row. And Jake, it is worth mentioning the fact that there are so many times a lot of people that do stuff behind the scenes. Of course, we talk about the drivers on the track, but more and more it is the people behind the scenes who are doing the strategy, who are working and testing and developing and doing all these things that we don't often, get the chance to, hear the thank yous for.
No, the silent warriors will. And Lewis Hamilton could be the greatest Formula 1 driver in the world, but where would he be without his crew chief engineer and his mechanics and Toto Wolff as a team boss and all the rest of it? So I think that they go underappreciated, but the work that they do cannot be overstated enough.
I agree. We're going to hand it over to you, Jake, actually, because you have got the driver who came home in 2nd place. That is Mac Backham.
Mac, it's no secret, 3 victories this year, a second place here, off by only 4 and a bit more seconds, if not 4.3. You're looking right now at probably a fantastic season by your standards, but looking over to 2019 first and foremost, is this the foundations to a title challenging campaign?
Maybe. I'm not sure yet. Again, I need to see what direction the series goes in next year, and then decide from there if I want to keep driving. For example, if we get some oval races or something, then I'm out. Yeah, I think I've really sorted my stuff out the last few races. I think what kind of held me back in a lot of the races in the start and in the middle of the year is that I would always have pretty decent race pace, but my Q pace, well, it was good in practice, but I just wouldn't come out in the actual session. And it seems that I've kind of found my rhythm in that now, and now I'm qualifying well, so now I can kind of compete up front. And I'm not quite as quick yet as Martin, as you could see today, but obviously when you qualify so far up front, you definitely have a better shot at getting a lot of points when others don't do well. So yeah, that definitely helps, and maybe I can work from there.
Starting the race then on the outside of turn number 1, you're looking at your rival behind you on the grid. You yourself have the championship leader in front of you. How difficult is it to race, especially in the early laps, when you know you have to tread on eggshells because both your teammates are fighting for a championship?
It was really easy, actually, because we practiced that. I practiced a lot with Martin in Hosteds, and he would always qualify on pole there, and I would be second. So yeah, we've done that start like 100 times. And yeah, after the first turn, Martin immediately pulled away from me. I pulled away from Mitchell a bit. So yeah, there was nothing too special about the race today other than just doing laps, and it never felt like there was any risk of anything going wrong. So.
Well, no risk then, but certainly a lot of reward for third place in the championship. Do you feel maybe a little bit disappointed the fact that Gregor had issues today which prevented a title battle, or shall we say a championship battle for third?
Yeah, I have no idea what happened to him. I guess it would have been nice maybe for the stream and stuff if he raced, and would have made things maybe very exciting. But yeah, I think overall we had just a really good car. We really prepared a lot on the setup, so I'm pretty confident that I could have gotten the 20 points leads regardless.
Well, Mac Backham, stage is yours. Shout outs and sponsors.
Yeah, obviously just a big thanks to everyone in the team, especially just Martin and everyone else for helping set up the car all year long and helping me prepare. And they've really pushed me to a new height. I think this year really made a step forward, and I could not have done that without all the people in the team, and also to our sponsors, so Virtual Racing School, Husingveld Engineering, SimEquip, VTech, JRT, Andor Design, and thank you guys for the broadcast.
No worries at all. Mac Backham then coming home in second position, third in the championship, Will. And pretty much well on the way, if things stay as they are in this series, to a title challenge.
Yes, indeed so. And, well, Backham, we've talked about how he's developed so much this year, and probably moving to Coanda was probably the best, well, sim racing career move that he possibly could have done. And always, there's so many different options, Johnny, when the big teams come knocking, or you go knocking to the big teams. Won't lie to you, if Matt Backham had gone to Redline, he wouldn't have lasted, I don't think. If Matt Backham had gone to the likes of an NX or anything else, I don't think it would have worked. I think Commander's the perfect fit.
It always was the perfect fit for Mac Backham, and look how it transformed him. Remember, Mac Backham 3 years ago used to be this guy we used to describe as being erratic and get involved in too many incidents, make some mistakes out there on the racetrack with all this potential and all this pace. And look at him now. He's a superstar, and like we said during the broadcast, is a contender, possibly looking at his pace at the moment, for a world championship next year. So who knows how that will turn out for him. And there are a few other drivers I won't name that I'm just having to think we're close to possibly getting into Coanda and didn't end up there. And I'm just wondering, what if they did end up at Coanda? Where would they be right now?
Yeah, it's always the what ifs. Well, one driver that you are going to talk to is a Coanda driver. He's also a Red Bull driver. He's got it on his helmet, and that is Mitchell de Jong.
Yeah, still alongside Mitchell de Jong, rounds out the podium. Mitchell, can I just say, first of all, you've had a successful season, but surely you're excited for Martin, your teammate. You were title rivals the whole campaign, and you've been working with this man for a few years already, and you're definitely delighted for him to see that title for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. it's super cool to be able to fight so closely with your teammate for the actual championship, and for it to come down to the last race after some ups and downs. I think for both of us, it's pretty cool. And when it's your teammate, you have to be happy, of course. He worked very hard. He deserved it. And yeah, super stoked for him. Also for Mac to be able to sneak into third there at the end. It's an awesome team result.
And you have to say as well, you've made his life misery, haven't you, in terms of Martin? Like, I mean, Suzuka most notably at the start. You weren't going to back out of any title fight. You wanted this all to your own. So a bit of disappointment on your end, or do you still think you had a good campaign?
I'm pretty satisfied with it. Obviously, you give it everything, and sometimes when you're so close, it can be a bit disappointing, but when you take a step back and kind of put it into perspective, being able to really fight for a championship in 3 different series this year, and have it come down to the last race for all of them, I'm super stoked with that, to be honest. Even just last year, thinking that I'll have a shot at the championship in F1 against Martin is something I can be really proud of. Even though I would have liked to win it, of course, anyone would. Without a doubt, I'm satisfied.
And you've returned to the top step of the podium this year multiple times already. You've had more pressure than ever, I'd say, not just in this series, but in other series. You've had a successful season for sure. And you just said, were you expecting this much of pressure coming out at you this season? Did you expect to be challenging for the title all the way down to the final race? Because you did say earlier on you were trying to push a lot harder this year. This may be your last chance at a full-time schedule for the title.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I think it's not so much the pressure that is the really hard part for me, because you're kind of used to it with a lot of things, but I think just the workload and adapting to different cars, and knowing how different people race in different series, and just different types of racing, whether it be endurance or more sprint racing or rallycross. It's really a lot. Skipping around from week to week to different types of things, and sometimes having double in 1 week is quite intense. And about just past mid-season, I started to really kind of feel the effect of trying to manage all this, which is a bit too much for sure. Without a doubt, it definitely didn't do me any benefits in any of the series. So I guess my level went down a little bit, kind of, if I was to say, concentrated on one thing. But to have the opportunity to do all these things, and to actually fight for a championship and all of it is, it's something that you don't really get that opportunity too often, and it's super cool to be able to say I got to do that this year.
And the off-season for you, what's the plans? Testing for a bit, maybe surely a break after the rallycross season finishes. You're going to put your feet on the couch for a little bit, or do you have more racing on the offers?
Well, it was a lot of racing this year. I would definitely like to take a little break. I'm going to push really hard for this last rallycross race. Hopefully we can get one championship out of the year. Maybe end it on a race win. That would be really cool. After that, we have some of the SCO races, but I'm going to try to take a little break just so I can, recoup a little bit of energy to race. And yeah, we'll see. You never know. I could say I'm going to take 2 weeks off, and after 3 days I'm going to be wanting to race again, so we'll find out.
And who gets it done for you from Coanda?
Yeah, of course, all our teammates for the great year. We made some really big strides, especially early in the year when sometimes in qualifying we were lacking a bit. And big thanks for them, and in all the series, everyone that's helped develop, just putting together an awesome year. And our spotters like Martin and Mac has said that they do so much behind the scenes, especially with strategy for the F1 car this year is pretty tricky. And they do a great job at giving us some nice strats. Of course, all our other partners, Virtual Racing School, Hoisingfeld Engineering, SimQuip, FeedTech, Joe Real Timing, and Warren Design, and of course you guys, RaceSpot, for putting on the broadcast for us.
There's Mitchell de Jong. Will, I have to say, very successful season for the young man, even though the title didn't come his way. And he said it right. You know, he's going for another world title. Hopefully he can win that this coming Thursday in the Rallycross Series.
Indeed. Sorry, I hadn't fallen asleep there, I promise. I was just getting ready with all of the lovely questions for my favourite Finnish driver, honest. But yeah, you can see that, of course, this Thursday live on the iRacing Esports Network. It's rapid fire time. So, Marty Piatella, moi moi, how are you?
Moro. I'm good. Yeah, it's good to be back after missing a couple of races. But yeah, first of all, I want to congratulate Martin for winning another championship again, and a huge thanks to the whole team. I mean, especially for this race, I just only really practiced for a few days, just picked the setup from the guys, and the car was great as the results show. So yeah, huge thanks for those guys for all the work.
I'm not going to dwell about the race too much because it wasn't entirely uneventful, but it was kind of uneventful, I would say, in some ways. But one thing that is worth noting, what you're going to do in terms of Pro Series, what you're going to do in terms of 2019.
Yeah, very good questions. But the good thing is that I finished decently today, so I don't need to even think about the Pro Series. But
75% rule.
It's what?
We'll talk about that after. We think so. We don't know. Who knows?
I don't think so. Yeah, I just had a conversation about it already. But
okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I need to do that, then I just need to do it. And yeah.
Okay. And what for 2019?
Yeah. If the racing is as fun as today, then yeah, let's go for it.
All the same. Marty Piatella, P number 4, P number 5. Marcus Jensen, he broke up the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Coanda. Marcus, Burst Esports top 5. You must be happy.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Those Coanda cars, they were just a bit too fast today for me, so couldn't really get any better than 5th, I don't think. So yeah, fairly happy with it.
Well, as I say, not focusing on 2018, that's in the books. 2019, what's going to happen for Burst Esports as they continue to grow?
I think I'll continue racing in this series. Obviously, depending on what happens with this series, but hopefully it's something good, and then I will definitely keep racing in this series with that being my main focus, I think. So yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is Marcus Jensen from Burst Esports. I am going to ask you one question to both of you, Jake and Johnny. Moment of the year. Jake.
For me, there have been a lot of great moments, and I think that has slightly caught me off guard because I hadn't thought of one directly off the top of my head, but I think the moment of the season has to go down as one of the great overtakes that we have seen in this series, and that is Gregor Hutu's banzai on Martin Kroenke at the Nürburgring. On home territory, throw the Finnish flag out, I'm still going to be here, and I'm still going to be racing, and I'm still win-worthy material.
Johnny.
Moment of the season, Kroenke's Monza crash. Like, I mean, I've never seen that before, ever. I mean, he's a robot. He's a guy who had... He had like one incident point in his whole career. It feels that way. So that was iconic. Mac Backham getting his first race victories. Mitchell de Jong versus Gregor in the final lap at Watkins Glen. This is a difficult one. Anton Higgelin's save at Indianapolis was one. The final lap last round at Spa. What was that? I don't even know what that was. There's so much more to go, but the biggest one has to be Kroenke winning 3 titles. Just it has to be the biggest one of them all.
I'm just going to say 3 words. Hutu, Glenn, last lap. That's 4 words. Who cares? It's the end of the season, ladies and gentlemen, of course. What that means is it's time to say thank you to all the people that make this happen. First of all, to the guys that do so much behind the scenes for us. It's Wambalau, TrackCams22.com for the sexy TV cameras. Overlay design to Andres Warner and And1 Design. Development and all the graphics that you see put together, Simon Grossman, Aptioneering.com. Live timing and scoring all season long by Nick Thisson. And also want to give a shout out to all the guys at iRacing, Tyler Hudson, Drew Adamson, that get that work done for us. Want to give a thank you to Jake, to Johnny, and of course to Hugo, the people that thankfully stepped in when I was almost dying at least 3 times this year. So thank you, and thank you to all the people that wish me well along the way as well. And also thank you as ever to the drivers of the series and to all the fans that have made this season so entertaining. 2018 of the World Championship Series is in the books, and we've got a 3-time world champion. Congratulations to Martin Kroenke for becoming a 3-time world champion of Grand Prix Racing. We will see you all for the Pro Series and for 2019. Goodbye from Circuit of the Americas.